Previously, in the Age of Ashes. This group of weird elves and Buddy, the farmer, showed up out of my storeroom asking all kinds of questions. Why does my storeroom matter to a lot of you?
Because
you want
your
pickles? We got pickles. We got pigs here. Dogs love them.
Your storeroom is a weak link in Breach Hill's defenses leading to the outside.
I found myself a pretty alright side source of coin, but I need that money. So unless you got your own solution, if you got a way to fill that particular gap.
You want us to help you make this place busier, bring you more business.
Oh, I thought she was asking for a bribe.
Yeah, how about I just slap some gold on the table?
Oh, but no, she has income. This is
needs-
income
I meant
that she
more
needs.
piss off kind of way, but admittedly, they did a turn of good by me. Made my tavern right profitable. So I told him what I knew. I hesitate to ask. What's going on over here?
Recipe tweaking. And
So-
a signature meal.
Going to the bookstore to see if he can find himself some recipe books.
Step 2, Burton Bros Masonry.
Card tournament.
We're going to need to clean that place up. I'm guessing there's vermin. Pest form to turn into a cat to hunt them all down.
About, that person who has access to your tunnels.
Oh, right, of course. The bookkeeper, Miss Voss?
Are you sure it's not Colmont?
Miss
Oh.
Voss, the half-elf lady, she's the one?
Yeah, that's her. Weird, tall, kind of broody. Voss is the half-elf owner of the Reliant Book Company,
Oh,
yes.
she and I are really good
And yeah,
friends.
I think you are friends. I think you are friends. I think you are friends.
I sell my books at her place.
Not that you're at least very acquainted with each
Yeah.
other. Closed down the shop and really just stopped in here for some supplies for the road.
It's just unfair. You
No,
didn't
it
do
was-
anything wrong, and
I can't tell you what she's using the tunnel for, but I know she's definitely used that storeroom more than a couple times for some of her magic. You know, weird kind of magic with the bones and skulls and whatnot.
she's a necromancer?
I don't know what that is.
I walk up and lift up her backpack and like struggle, and like even with just like heft struggle to pick it up, and I'm like, well, ma'am, you can't be talking. You won't make it anywhere if you've got to pack this heavy. You know, I've got a mule that I ain't doing nothing with. If you need something to carry.
You know,
I don't know that we've met.
Well, if you're
Appreciate
friends
your
of them,
charity,
you're friends
but-
of mine. My name's Buddy.
Voz Lorraine.
But here. Now, I had this donkey protecting my farm. He's a real good donkey here, but now that my boys old enough to protect the farm themselves,
you had a donkey protecting your farm?
well, yeah. What else would you have a donkey for?
Aren't they typically used for pulling things?
Well, he also pulls the plow sometimes, but he doesn't really need to. The boys will do that.
Does he bark when people come near?
He'll tear your head right off, that donkey.
Huh.
They can be fairly territorial animals, I suppose.
But now since these boys have grown up, I wouldn't mind loaning you this donkey, and you know he'd be perfectly good at carrying a good pack. Right here's Blue. He'll take good care of you, and he's also a pretty good protector. Now, Blue, this right here is Vaz. You better protect her with your life, you know. And I say she's got a pack here, and she's now. Where are you headed, Miss?
North. Okay. Perhaps I have gone slightly too overboard and lost the view of what it was we were actually doing vis-a-vis recap video. we like to have fun here, and I just got way too wrapped up in shenanigans and Buford's donkey and all of that. But that was largely everything we discovered last week. We spent most of our time in several days working to help Zuri Starflower overhaul the pig's ear, to help her out, so she would help us out by telling her or telling us rather, who had been using that tunnel to the Altarian crypts. We learned it was Vaz, and just briefly had discussed how we wanted to proceed from there before ending last week's session. And I believe the last thing we'd done was everyone had to split to go gather weapons and armor because
We're gonna meet up.
not entirely sure what we're going into at this point anymore.
Right.
So, and that's exactly where it was. Each of you heads back to your residences and spends a few minutes suiting up, so to speak. I assume somebody goes and gets Esphus.
That's
Yeah.
probably what I would go do,
It
because I don't
seems-
exactly need armor.
It seems like this has very rapidly swung back into Esphus's wheelhouse here and things he may be interested in now the tavern makeover has ended for the week.
Esphus just shows up behind us with a mug of beer.
So who all lives or stays in the town? I know you're outside, aren't you? Or don't you have a
I have a cottage, but it's like literally right outside of town.
like outside the walls?
Like
though.
right
Buford's
outside the
outside the walls on a farm. Dalren, you.
I live in a boarding house in the northern side.
What about you two?
I stay at the, I can't remember the name of the archives.
You actually stay at the archives.
Yep.
Okay, so
There's like
Fits
a
right
little,
on a shelf.
There's a little
Yep.
closet like that.
No, it's the
Friends
elf
are
on a
gonna-
shelf, not
just
the
a nook
halfling.
under a staircase that you just walk straight into because you're small enough to make those things work. And Esphus,
My family does also stay in town, so that they're easy access for helping out around.
okay. So Dalren then would be the only one that, as you get back to your home, and you open the front door to head in to gather your ancient armor, your Gustan and everything, to have found a note that has been slid under the door. It looks like a fairly large sheet of just standard parchment that is covered across with a pretty impressive bit of artwork dictating a man standing up, posing, one leg perched on a keg, raising a foaming mug up in the air with a massive grin on his face, and an invitation for all to gather together tomorrow, the 2nd of Calistril, at Caden's Keg, one of the other not Pig's Ear taverns in the town, / church, kind of. The line's awkward with Caden Kalian. To celebrate Merry Mead. And all of you, I don't know how heavily everyone is invested in alcohol in general across this party, other than Buddy, maybe
It's too expensive.
too
Well,
expensive.
Dalren
I mean, I
knows
do-
for sure that you do not slight the gods. It's not a good thing to do.
But
And
you would
it's
all,
his month, so...
You would all certainly be familiar with Merry Mead. It's one of the major religious, technically, holidays. It's religious in the same way that St. Patrick's Day is technically religious, and that
Love it.
St. Patrick is the same. Because it's Caden Kalian, who's not far off of the analog, the accidental god, so to speak. Who's,
Drove the snakes out of the tavern.
Yeah, his exploits or his domains of worship include heroism, bravery, and drinking a lot.
Doesn't he have luck, too?
I feel like there's one
Also
that leads
luck.
into the other two.
But
But this is like a
Merry
full
Mead-
piece of artwork.
it's
like
it's
someone
it's a
worked
full, yeah,
this.
I mean, it's not like colored in or anything, but someone did draw that on there. And
Yeah,
since
this
it's
isn't a
been
print.
slid under your door, apparently they have spent some time making a lot of these. But that's not surprising because, again, you would all know that Merry Mead, although it may come as a shock that that's literally tomorrow with how wrapped up you've been in things recently, is kind of Caden Kalian Christmas. It is sort of a major holiday, and it's
Okay.
not surprising.
This is where the fine bourbons and the wines and the whiskeys all come out.
Now we're talking.
No, the opposite.
Everyone gets cheap drinks.
This is where the whatever drink there is flows as close to freely as possible.
Quantity, not
I
quality.
remember reading about
Caden
it.
Kalian. Quantity,
Quantity,
not
not
quality.
quality.
So, you would, well, what?
Well, I mean, this is clearly an invitation. Someone worked very hard on this. You don't tick off the pantheon. I'll have to go invite everybody. We'll have to go and it'll be a trial to take this day off and get completely soused, but it's important.
And you know that the woman that runs it, Miss Taith, she is, again, this crossover is just interesting. She both runs the bar itself, which, for as far as drinking is concerned, is probably the most popular one in Breachill. I mean, of course, it's Caden Killian's chosen bar. That's like the gods themselves showing a holy alcoholic beacon down on this building. But she is also, she is a cleric. She is a cleric of Caden Killian. We know she has divine magic, and she is a fairly powerful one at that.
So she can make the beer stronger.
Well, she's just doing it to get tax exemption on her tavern.
You're so wrong.
No, but I'm sorry.
Lauren's seen this happen before.
This isn't a bar. This is a church of Caden Killian. I'm tax exempt. But pocketing that, you armor up, grab your Gusaren, whatever else you need. Everybody else kits up as well. And you all
I just go shine a light in Esvis's window. Hey, come on, we're going.
Just lantern. Esvis! Esvis, we gotta go break into a store!
Hey, Esves!
His dad opens the door. It's like,
It's not that late. It's still like an hour or two before sundown. It's like late afternoon at best. But a few minutes later, the five of you, along with Tyrannus, all regroup outside the Reliant Book Company. Now, most of you are relatively familiar with the building. You've been in here at least somewhat regularly before. Definitely not Buford, and I don't know about Esphus.
Maybe wandered by
Maybe
on
poke
patrol.
your head in.
Yeah.
It's kind of off in a corner of Breachill. It's pretty far out at a distance from a lot of other things. It's right near the wall, of the town wall itself on the northwestern side. And its positioning has not been a great help surely to the amount of sales the place gets, because there's just not a whole lot going on back here. But it's a fairly small affair. A simple wooden brick building with a single door entryway. And it's just square all around, a single story with windows out on each side. And you get there with Tyrannus already waiting for you, standing near the door with his breastplate donned and his halberd in hand. And you, quick recap, you moved the lesser potency rune to his halberd, right?
Yes.
Somebody did that? Okay, so he's not
yeah,
packing
and
two
as
halberds.
you also have a.
Oh yeah, you have a +1 longbow, by the way.
Thank you.
That is, I guess, the thing we should probably catch you up on.
Just +1.
Yeah, so it's just +1 to your attack rolls with the longbow, because they moved the rune from the other halberd over to your bow. So yeah, Merry Christmas. You guys should miss sessions more often. We try to bribe you back with magical loot. But he taps his halberd to the door, where a simple sign is posted, just closed. No further information or anything. Actually, just nailed to the outside of the door itself. It's a flat, thin wooden plank with the word painted across it, and a fairly thick and brushed hand.
Well,
Hello?
Well, that's okay. I'll go up. I'm guessing it's locked.
And he would just nod as you approach the door. I tried. I figured I may as well give it a shot while I was waiting. It's locked, as are the windows.
I guess I'll give it a go.
He just sort of looks around. Does not seem to be a lot of foot traffic in this area. I've only been here a few minutes, but I've seen nearly nobody pass. I'll stand in front of you.
Oh.
And he just puts his halberd up and just sort of makes himself large and just screens you a bit toward from the main street.
Okay, so he's standing up tall in front of me. She's got to impress him now. Like, this has just become key.
Well, he's looking the other direction, but
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
The stakes are high.
This is a big one. And you are going to make a thievery check?
Yeah.
You are at least trained, right?
I am trained.
Okay.
That's going to be a 21.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Now, with that 21, as you take your picks and your tools and insert them into the lock here, you're a bit surprised. Because, Voz doesn't have a terribly profitable business. She makes enough income to keep the business running, and not a whole lot more, really. Nor does she have any exceptionally valuable or rare tomes stored within. I mean, she lives here, But the lock on this front door is of outstanding make. And beyond that, has several countermeasures taken to be difficult to pick. The key does not appear to slide in just completely straight with the pins right up above the top of the keyway. They're all slightly offset from each other, making it very difficult for you to properly get tension in. But you are also pretty good at this. And just barely, you're able to pop this lock and get the front door open. Just
Okay.
barely.
That was more of a sweat than I expected it to be.
And Tyrannus looks back. What took so long?
I haven't seen or felt a lock like that since I tried to pick my family's silver cabinet open. Like, people use these locks in very, very good houses to hide very valuable things. I would
But
not
this
have...
explanation can continue inside. Now
Okay.
there's 6 of us here. This is somewhat conspicuous.
Okay.
That's
Is it
fair.
open?
Clunk,
Yeah.
clunk.
Alright, so the group of you all kind of clonk into the Reliant Book Company here. Buford now in actual full plate.
I'm getting used to this new full plate, you know.
The full knight armor with, again, quick reminder, the near perfectly spherical bubble helmet with 2 clips on the side so he can perch his cowboy hat atop it.
You look impressive and ridiculous at the same time.
Which is a thing I can't believe I did not include in the recap video. It's critical information for people trying to keep up with the show.
You're like, you'd hear it from like echoing voice inside of this helmet. You like my new set of armor, do you, Esmus? And
The
it'd be
new
kind of like, it'd be like
reverberates.
reverberating out and echoing around.
Yes.
Being a whisper elf, my ears just kind of like very briefly just twitch at the strange noise. Just this
So-
doesn't help you swim.
True.
Well, it might. We haven't tried yet.
As you all make your way inside, it is a bit cluttered for 6 people, a lot of which are in fairly hefty armor. The central area of the shop itself, the storefront, the main floor you enter into, is not terribly large. The buildings may be only 25 feet across in any given direction, and most of that, especially all around the outside, is just filled with bookshelves, laden near top to bottom with old dusty tomes and scrolls. And of course, Dalren, you would recognize some of your own writings that you've sold to Vaz here, taking some of these shelves. But I mean, she does have a fairly impressive assortment, given the location of Breach Hill and the lack of access to any real trade, as she has a bunch of things written in all myriad languages, even in tongues you don't even recognize. Of course, you can look at some and tell, oh, this is Wangyo, this is Chalish or something. I don't, this is Tian. I don't speak it, but I know vaguely what it looks like. But there are some where even the alphabet, the letters themselves, are completely unrecognizable to you. But she still has them out here. They've never sold, and she's, if you've ever expressed curiosity to her when you've been hanging around before, they aren't particularly valuable, just from far-reaching places and of interest to a specific brand of collector, maybe. There's 2 doors that lead into the back of the shop. One of which you would know from Vaz popping in and out while you've been around, you 3 anyway, while you've been around the store, just leads to her own bedroom where she stays. And the other, with a large mounted engraved sign, reads staff only, that you're not really positive what's ever back there.
Staff only type stuff.
Staff only type stuff. I mean, assumedly, it's the thing she uses to test various bits of parchment and
Test
date
various
things for
necromantic
authenticity.
rituals, maybe.
Test various necromantic rituals. It turns out maybe it could be a secret wizard laboratory, but we've never really been back there.
I guess I'll make sure that the door is closed behind us and at least has the appearance of not having been broken in.
Yeah. So you shut the door. I mean, she just picked the lock, so it's not like you bashed your way in here or anything. So yeah, just closing it behind you. There's absolutely no reason anyone would suspect anything outside. All of the windows are shuttered as well, with shades brought down the inside, so nobody can just see in, even were they to walk around the building for some reason. As you enter, as Tyrannus just kind of looks around here, there's a front counter just before the 2 doors that lead into the 2 halves of the back area. with a large ledger on it, still open, where she'd recorded what sales the shop had. And he walks over and just starts looking down through that. What are the rest of you doing?
I would probably go take a look behind the counter to start with. Like, just her general area of transactions.
Okay. So you want to be seeking, but we're going to be looking specifically back there.
Yeah.
How about you, Estes?
I'll also be excuse me. I'll be
I also have that.
bless you.
Allergies, man.
Allergies, man.
Corona.
Stop it.
Stop.
I'll be searching around, going over to the staff only door and seeing if there's anything around it that's been disturbed, or check the door real quick just as a passing thing, see if it's locked.
Okay, so you are both seeking here. Well, you, Buford. You're probably the only one who's never set foot in this building before. It smells old. And it smells of dust. And
Well, it's no wonder she got no customers in here. This place is a mess.
it's not because it's messy. It's not because
Well, I
there's a
can't
lot
tell
in
if
here
they're-
that's cluttered, but just that a lot of these books are very ancient.
They look
So
terrible. God,
it
dude,
smells
she
of dust
really
and
should
ink
throw
in
some of
here.
these things out. They're way too old.
It might be due to the rate of literacy in this particular town that this shop's in such disarray.
The rate of what now?
Exactly.
Most of you come in here and see a lot of books in common and several books in strange, outlandish languages. Buford just sees a whole bunch of books in languages he can't read. So you just kind of
Just because you
Well, I'd
start
probably
with
go
languages.
wander around behind Esphis, and then if
Helping.
I pick up, I'd be helping, of course. If there were like any books with some pretty pictures or anything, I might pick it up, and then like whenever someone looked over at me, I'd like do what I think is the good reading speed. So I'd flip a page every 4 seconds because I'm like, that's how fast people read. I'm sure of it.
How about you, Tara?
So I'm a little concerned, Voz. I've been in this shop enough times that the layout doesn't confuse me. But I am a bit concerned because if Voz was a necromancer, there may be some sort of arcane wards of some such here. So he's going to keep an eye out specifically for that. He's trained in Arcana. He knows roughly what to look for.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be checking that out. And rather than going to the staff-only section, he'll kind of also move towards her rooms instead of the staff.
All right. And how about you, Esme?
So I've been here several times. When I was in here before and I used detect magic, did I pick up anything?
Previously, if you had ever cast detect magic in the shop, you would not have registered any magic.
Okay, well, I'm going to cast it now to see if I register magic now.
And it can easily cover the whole of this chamber here, and it still doesn't pick up anything. But I feel like, at least until we have left Book 1 of Age of Ashes, every time Detect Magic comes up, I have to give the second edition Detect Magic disclaimer that it is the cantripiest cantrip. So if it is in any way hidden, like you can actually, in second edition, have a book, cut a hole out in the middle, put a talisman there, and close it, and not detect magic.
Oh,
like,
wow.
if an attempt was made to hide it, or if even somebody who has magical gear is attempting to hide, detect magic will not ping off of it.
Okay.
Because you can screen it pretty well. So it is just dramatically less reliable than it once was. I guess like the 10th time I've given this disclaimer because it blows my mind every time I think about it. That's
Well-
probably the staple spell that has changed the most going from first to second.
Well, I am also an expert in Arcana, so I will also be looking around for less obvious signs that magic has gone on here in some more covert way.
Okay. So, Rur, as you head over back behind this front counter with Tyrannus, it's immediately obvious that underneath the ledger of sales on the backside of this desk, there is a decently sized till box where she kept all of the coins from her transactions. That look like it's been cleaned out completely. But the ledger on the table that Tyrannus is looking through just does seem to have logged all of her recent sales. And looking through it, just glancing over, you don't immediately see anything of interest. It all looks fairly mundane, and it's not like she was terribly busy. It's open to a page that she's halfway down one side of, and that's probably 2-3 months worth of transactions, at least a quarter of which are with Dalren. But make me a perception check.
All right. So that's a 27.
With a 27, as you look through, one of them does sort of stand out to you. Because it's marked out with red ink with a question mark. And where normally she would be tracking things she had acquired where they would be shelved or filed. It's written that she stored it in her personal chambers, but that's crossed out and question marked. And this happened just a couple of days before the call for heroes. And rather than a title of a book or a treatise or a treatise, or a or any other kind of tome, this simply says Conjuration Scroll, fire. And the Tyrannus stands there. If you
I would point it out.
point it out. What? Conjuration Scroll. This was... She trades in magical things?
Well, I mean, it is a place of learning. It's entirely possible the occasional magical scroll would come through every now and then.
It's even possible the person didn't know what they were selling.
Or
It's even possible they could possibly just have been outright malicious towards us by redeeming their hard-earned channel points for yet another villain point for your GM. Thank you, Link 1429. I have 3 now. Oh no, and another one as well, a 4th. I had just shouted out that one. A 4th villain point to my stash.
Tyrannus is speaking in tongues. He must be put down.
From Handsome Ganker. Wow, I'm getting loaded. Someone's got to start spending these on everything. Fair enough.
Let's go fight something inconsequential.
Fear
we can
your
spend
next
them.
combat.
fight a squirrel.
Stop it. You've
But,
already seen what rats can do. Stop it.
Fair.
Rodent, you don't have a good track record with rodents. So he's looking down at the thing here. Huh. Well, I did not know this woman at all. But I see nothing else here to indicate any similar transactions. None of the rest is in the scrolls. What do you think this question mark is? Did she lose it?
Well, it just so happens that the timing conveniently adds up to the summoning of a little imp in the town hall during the Call of Heroes a few days ago. So it's entirely possible that her assistant that we caught up at...
He may have stolen it.
Yep.
Yes, I see.
And that would explain
This
why
is
it
that
went missing.
Kalmont, the halfling you were carrying back after you first met.
Yep. That's exactly.
So, Espis, as you are up at the door to her chambers, you go quickly and try the knob and realize it's locked from the inside. She's secured that door up as well. But looking around it, why don't you make me a perception check as well?
Total of 18.
With an 18, looking down near the bottom of the door, you can see that the path in and out of here is far more well-worn than the one that goes in and out of whatever the staff room is on the other side. Apparently, she didn't even seem to use that door terribly often, but she had to come and go from here regularly because it's where she slept and ate and lived. But the last time she came through here, it looks like an extraordinary amount of caution was taken to make sure the door was properly sealed. You can see there's nearly no wear right on the inside crack near the door handle, implying that this door probably isn't even closed all the way on most days, and it's just left ajar open for her ease of access. And it's not normal that it's brought completely closed and latched tight like this. In fact, it doesn't even look like it fits perfectly in its frame normally. And a lot of extra effort would have had to be making sure that it had in fact latched. So, Buddy, you're nearby, you're just sort of peeking over with this as Espis is looking around. Looks like a door to you, but as Espis tries it, it's quite clearly locked. Doran, the staff-only door, however, does not appear to be locked, and the handle moves freely. Why don't you make me a perception check as well?
Sure. So that's going to be a 22.
And with a 22, it looks like this isn't even hooked up to have any sort of a latch. There isn't a locking mechanism she could have had on this.
Mm-hmm.
She clearly seemed to have one on her bed chambers just for personal privacy. or whatever was back here. I mean, she lives here. It's not like it was ever that out of her sight for that long where people could come and just mess with whatever is in the staff room.
Sure. Yeah.
Vending machines.
Well, I mean, I suppose then in that case, it's probably there's not anything particularly of interest back here that Vaz would have recognized would be of interest. But at the same time, certainly worth an examination. So he'll just push his way back and start looking around.
And as you open the door, spikes shoot out from both sides, set into the door frame, skewering out towards Dalren. Not locked, but it is trapped. What is your AC, actually?
AC is going to be 20.
This has to attack you.
I have deny advantage, so I think it can't surprise me unless the level is higher than me.
Does it have to be higher than you, or does it have to be too higher than you? Because it is a level 4 hazard, so I know first edition had a lot of things that had to be too higher than you.
I don't.
Well, let me see if it
believe
matters.
says
Roll a
too higher,
do
but go for
D20
it.
and find out. That is going to be a 34.
Oh, I think it'll hit me.
It is. These spikes.
You want to spend one of those villain points?
No,
See if
I'm
you can
okay,
get that a little
actually.
higher.
Maybe you can get a little higher than that.
So as these spikes come out, they're incredibly fine but sturdy, and they launch out from the door frame with a pretty impressive amount of pneumatic force, loaded back with some kind of a decently hefty mechanism on the other side. And you all would see these pierce directly through Dalren's armor.
Okay.
Just punching in through, and even see the tips of them punch out the backside. Fortunately, they're thin enough that it's not horrifically gory or anything.
Yay.
Probably doesn't feel nice.
Probably doesn't feel nice at all. That's a lot of dice he's rolling.
As they retract,
They had barbs on.
I'm pretty sure Dalren drops. 6, 9, 12, 14, 15, 30 damage.
I do not drop.
Dalren's up!
Yeah, that wouldn't even be enough to take me out.
Yeah, that's right. We are level 3 now. But you do take 30 damage from a series of these spikes shooting
So
right
most
through
of
you.
So
your organs,
he gets transfixed, and then it pulls back, and he just kind of stumbles away.
Oh,
Ah!
Now, although it would look at first surprisingly uninjured because the entry points are so small, immediately blood would start pouring at the ground underneath Dalren.
Out of character, I'm having flashbacks to a certain sci-fi movie of a geometric shape with bad traps in every room.
No.
So
And Tyrannus immediately turns
I think that the rooms may be trapped.
from the till.
Please be careful.
The door slowly swings open because you got it open as this thing launched out, so it's open now. By Asmodeus, what happened? What was that?
Roar! Quick!
Does no one listen?
What happened? I'm over behind a
Yeah,
counter.
they're lying
You're
kind
on
of like
the
they
other
weren't
side.
looking that way.
Yeah.
They just hear like shink shink and look over and see blood on the ground. He's
he's been
backwards. I'm like,
skewered.
Dalren's very injured.
By what? Is it still there?
It's a
Traps
trap.
in the door frame. Do be careful, please. Oh my gosh, that hurts.
I'm going to immediately come over and pump a heal
and
into
Tyrannus is gonna pull his halberd out and just hold it, turning himself towards that door with no idea what's back there.
Be careful, the door bites.
you. Yeah, so you're going to get tier 2 heal as a level 2 spell. It's still a +8, correct?
Plus 16.
+16.
It
okay.
doubles all facets of the spell, yeah. And it's 2d8 plus
So
16 now.
You get 26
Cool.
from a much more powerful blessing of Sarenrae.
That's pretty spectacular. He looks almost, aside from wincing as he rolls his shoulders, he kind of straightens up again. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, that was most unpleasant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Look out for the next one. We
Yes,
don't need that
no,
happening too
indeed.
many times.
Geese arm out. He's gonna just kind of poke the floor and kind of like poke the door
Open
frame.
everything from the farthest reach of your weapon,
That's
please.
that I think that's going to be an excellent idea. That's how Dalren's going to go through this
We're
story.
just poking everything now
What is
with the
this?
foot of your geese arm, making sure there's nothing else happening. And as you're going back into that staff room now.
Well, I'm gonna make sure that if it's not a
You're
pressure plate on the
slowly
floor, I'm
building-
gonna make
yeah,
sure
you're
it's
gonna-
not like
You're
a
not
motion
walking
sensor
in
thing.
and starting to poke things, but you're poking your way.
Yes,
back.
exactly.
He looks like a blind man.
I'm just. I understand this is why shops have those notices of don't let children run free. That's all I'm imagining is like, what happened the first time Voz set this up? Did like just some kid just like, yay!
And Voz's business just went downhill from there.
Let's be
Boz
real. If a
used to have a
child,
dog. What dog?
This room, as you look into it, is fairly small. Maybe the size of this one we're actually sitting in. Probably not even this big. Maybe like 8 foot by 8 foot. It's a little sectioned off corner of the home. It looks like it holds a pair of desks elled around the back corner with a single stool sat before them. A few candles set into holdings on the top of the desks and alongside the door to provide some amount of light. But the rest of the room in absolute disarray. Papers, books, scrolls are everywhere, all over the floor, spread haphazardly across the surfaces of the two desks, many of them having even fallen back down along the walls behind the furniture in here. It's a complete and total mess.
Oh.
But as you tap at every bit of floor and wall, pushing some of these books and papers around, nothing else triggers. You don't get further murdered. So, Esvis and Buddy, what are you doing? Because you were at the other door here. Tyrannus is standing outside this door with his halberd ready, kind of just looking in, realizing it's not a very big area and there doesn't appear to be anything in there.
Once I realized that Dalrin is okay,
Relatively speaking.
speaking, before becoming a connect the dots desert elf, I will use the thieves' tools that I acquired from, or not but they're lockpicks and stuff like that I acquired from Resme while we were down in Citadel Altarian, and try to pick.
You had 2 sets?
No, I bought another one when I was at the general store.
Okay.
She did.
Fair enough.
So I will attempt to pick the lock on Voz's.
Okay.
Just standing
Personal quarters.
standing next to him, like kind of with my shield over his head, just like in case there's like,
Okay, this door also tries to stab you.
in case, yeah.
Ordinarily, I would find this incredibly distracting, but thank you. Although
Yeah.
now I can't actually see the lock.
Hey, don't worry about it. You don't need to see the lock. This is more important.
Okay.
Trapdoor.
I'm gonna keep the other hand on the back of his collar and one hand.
Piston just.
While you're doing that, you should be aware that the pins are offset, and there's going to be several decoys. So, at least that's the way this lock was. So when you're going in there, don't think that you're going to be dealing with anything simple.
Well, I won't underestimate it, but this door was closed with a lot of force. Vaz ordinarily doesn't think that, or I'm assuming anyway, that Vaz doesn't think people like to go rummaging through her quarters. So this door was forced shut. We'll see. 23.
And with a 23, you would also be able to spring this lock here and open the door into her bedroom, which is a little bit bigger than the other research room. About just as deep, but about twice as wide. Not quite as severe a state of disarray, but also the whole room has clearly been tossed in a hurry as someone rushed to gather up things that they valued or considered important on their way out. There's an unmade bed, a modest chest of drawers that's been completely ransacked. An open wardrobe right inside the door is missing about half of its contents, just with a bunch of raw hangers laying there and piles on the bottom of it having been tossed aside. And in the corner, there's a small desk covered in a bunch of various personal effects, little dented archivist's reading glasses, some surprisingly large balls of lint, and also one book just sort of laying alone near all of this.
So that I don't end up skewered by lifting a book, I would like to make a perception check to make sure that
You're
there's
seeking.
nothing.
Go for it. Put the fear in them. We're doing good. Good GMing.
Yeah, 34 is a little scary.
They're afraid now.
27.
With a 27, as you peer at this book from across the room, you can tell that it was placed here fairly recently, and it also shows signs of a pretty large amount of use. The spine itself is fairly loose and worn. Somebody has opened this frequently for a pretty decent period of time. You can also see some telltale stains on the outer, where the pages are facing out, a little bit of ink stains that look like somebody has annotated the book itself. And the title is Breach Hill, Outpost of Liberty. It's sitting on top of a couple loose sheets of paper, so it's pretty unlikely that the book itself is connected to anything in the table or any kind of a mechanism.
I will go over and very carefully reach and take the book.
A cage falls down, your hand's trapped.
Okay. Okay, so that's like roll dice sometimes. It's cool.
You're a jerk.
So
You take the book.
I'll take the
There's
book
there's
and-
not a dash or anything. Like
and with not opening it, I'll motion for Buddy to follow me back out, and I'll come to the rest of the group, and I'll actually immediately hand the book over to Rur. And this has been well written into, annotated, and it looks like a lot of use has been put into this. Do you mind putting your expertise to use? Dalren, your room is tossed, yes?
Yes, quite so. Although, still, might be something in here.
What kind
Make
of
me
book?
a perception check.
What kind of book did you find?
A
19.
With a 19, as you're looking around it, I mean, there very well might be, but this room is so torn asunder that it would take some time to really look through it and see if there's anything of value in here. It's not even clear what the purpose of this room was originally. And it just looks like more storage and a couple of personal desks. But it's not that you don't find anything, it's that it's just impossible with a quick glance.
Right.
Or not that there isn't anything, rather.
Okay.
So, opening up this book, what do I see?
Well, you see a lot of text. That's
You're right. There's quite a bit of text on the page I opened. Too.
So, opening up this book here, you see something that honestly would be fairly familiar to you, having lived in since you live in the town archives and all. This is actually not Jorel Blacktail. Like, he didn't write this. This book's been around longer than that, but probably his kind of prize. This is a history of Breach Hill. So, we're going to go on a magical journey through Breach Hill's history. For a brief moment. Breach Hill traces its founding to 4520 AR. That fall, 50 people found themselves mired in a threadbare outpost in a valley at the foot of the Five Kings Mountains. They had little shelter, provisions to survive for just a couple of weeks, and very few skills between the group of them. Almost no defenses against the area's dangers or wildlife. Even stranger, none of the group had any idea how they'd gotten here. Most of them barely remembered their own names. And with the advance of winter up in these mountains, their flimsy outposts' vulnerabilities were clear. And these desperate survivors felt their hope fading. But then, an act of providence saved their lives, as the good people were saved by a kindly wizard named Lord Lamond Breachton.
Who is totally human.
Annotated up on the sides of this. Those idiots actually thought this was an act of chance, that they weren't the wizard's pet project originally. And then below that, 4A. Some of the papers underneath the book there seem to be footnotes that are labeled, and looking through for a corresponding here on what you two would easily recognize as Vaz's hands are a lot of her own notes of research. After that wizard had gathered them all together for whatever his plans was, trying to orchestrate some kind of a utopia, and it failed, he simply abandoned them here. Can't fault him for cutting off the weak fat from the meat and just discarding what was largely a loss. The only fault I see is his own misplaced sense of morality and pity driving him back to care for those he'd abandoned in the mountains.
Very interesting.
Lord Lamond Breachton, wandering adventurer, scholar, and wizard, was returning from a lucrative trading trip to Druma when he stumbled upon the amnesiac's meager outpost.
Totally coincidental.
Even with his powerful magic, kindly Lord Breachton couldn't solve the mystery of the humans' origins or restore their missing memories.
I
Which
have no
Which
clue where
next
you
to that
came
is
from.
written simply LOL in capital letters with an exclamation point.
And an XD.
He took pity upon the villagers and spent much of his recently acquired wealth on building proper shelters along the banks of what came to be known as Breach Creek. Furthermore, Breachton helped the amnesiacs acquire food and establish farms, brought in experts to teach them trades, and used his magic and know-how to aid their day-to-day affairs where the townspeople became self-sufficient. There are more of Vaz's footnotes here. I can't help but wonder if he had some further ulterior motive. Perhaps he'd hoped by wiping their memories with his own magic, he could have a second shot at this utopia of his. I don't know what got in his head in the first place beyond the grandiose, misplaced delusions of a wizard beyond his standing. But surely, with all his power he did seem to possess, there must still have been a further reason for his meddling. He abandoned them, after all. Why return? In less than a year, the outpost was thriving, and the leaders of the burgeoning hamlet named their settlement Breachton's Hill. In their mixed lack of literacy, this eventually just kind of became Breach Hill.
Would you like to know more?
Despite his monumental place in the town's history, very little is known about Lamond Breachton himself. The wizard's origins are a mystery, and details of his life before arriving in town are conspicuously missing from any records of the extensive local tests written about the town's founding. Townspeople know only Breachton had distinctive gold-colored eyes, the rich voice of an angel, and flowing white hair that reached past the magnificent robes. I'm reading this verbatim. He always I don't like staring down at the book and reading, but this has to be verbatim. Like, I can't take any credit from Paizo here. Curiously, the wizard made it clear to those early town pioneers that he was indeed a human.
I would like to point out that I would be reading this with extreme sarcasm to everyone.
As opposed to an Azamar, some other celestial-touched being.
Hello, fellow humans.
I too am a
too
human.
am a
I too am a human.
Well, this layman fellow must have been a real decent bloke.
Vaz's notes here, further detailing. It is a curious point he decided to put effort into driving home to these cretins. I wonder if he had some kind of ancestry he wished to hide, or thought perhaps were he some kind of Asamar celestial-blooded that would scare them off or somehow interfere with his experiments.
Well, I doubt he would have lied to the good folk around here. He's clearly doing a good deed here.
You arguing with notes?
Oh, I thought, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
reading
yeah.
this off
well,
from
I
the
thought
book.
he was, yeah.
I'm just reading what's in the book.
Yeah, he's not like...
Buford's arguing with
He's going
Vaz's
back and
notes.
forth
Yeah.
to Vaz's footnotes and the book here that she's annotated.
Yeah.
One thing is for certain, though, there is nearly nothing about this Breachton's origins. What purpose he had, or where he'd come from. Although, having lived in this settlement for as long as I have now, it's no surprise that he was able to gain the trust of these foolish idiots. History books describe Breachton's demeanor as exceedingly paternal. He treated each of the town's pioneers as wayward children, regardless of an individual's actual ages. His kindness and willingness to expend his own resources to help the outpost seemed without limit. However, he made the human survival and well-being his entire focus for an entire year. Then, one day, as quickly as he arrived, Breachton disappeared. There's a quick annotation there. The fools put up a statue of that charlatan. Hilarious!
You know, that story is really dragging on.
Wait a minute. When was the keep? When was the keep built?
Citadel Altarian? That
Yeah.
would also definitely be included in 4638 AR. The newly founded Hellknight Order of the Nail pledged themselves to fighting lawlessness in the untamed wilds. Impressed with Breach Hill's peaceful and efficient functionality and apparent self-sufficiency, they chose a spot outside Breach Hill for their inaugural home, Citadel Altarian. The Order built its single-tower keep high on a low-rising hill, a little over a mile northeast of the town. For decades, Breach Hill served as a supply juncture for the Hell Knights, and many townspeople took jobs as laborers or staff members attending to the keep's needs.
How long after the town
But
was...
then, in 4682 AR, only 44 years after building Citadel Altarian, the Order of the Nail pulled up stakes from what had become known as Hellknight Hill. Lured to the west by Queen Domina, then ruler of Corvosa, the Order of the Nail relocated to a far more expansive home in Citadel Vrade. For some years, it maintained a skeleton crew of Hell Knights to watch over the essentially empty Citadel, but in 4711, the Hell Knights abandoned Citadel Altarian entirely.
How long after the town was developed was the Citadel built?
So the town was developed in 4720 or 4520, and it was 4638, so a little over a century after. Breach Hill's been around for about 2 centuries.
I can't help but wonder if there's some sort of connection between the Ring of Alceta and why the wizard was here originally.
Vaz's notes also ponder a connection here. Must have been some reason these Hell Knights chose to settle in such a remote location with no resources and near zero trade. I
Conveniently
imagine
over
they
the sun.
shared suspicions like I did, wondering why this Breachton had also come to this location. The Hell Knights are not known to make their decisions lightly, especially something with as much investiture as constructing Citadel Altarian. Perhaps I can find more information there.
Well, that would explain why she was attempting to talk to the spirits in the catacombs.
I suppose so. However, it's rather curious that, well, she'd come all this way out here in the first place. Clearly, I'd really like to know why Vaz came here in the first place. What brought her all the way out to Breach Hill, where she's to lead her to start carrying on these strange investigations of hers?
Well, Breach Hill's a pretty nice place, you know. We all treat each other like family here.
Of course you do, of course. But it's very out of the way, you have to admit. A bookseller
an
to
adventurer,
travel all
I
the way
mean-
to Breach Hill. But she's a bookseller and apparently a necromancer. Apparently also a historian and a researcher. She apparently has many faces, actually.
Well, why'd you come out here to Breach Hill?
Rule 38
I ran
is
out of
always
money
look
here.
under. So I'm going to start looking under the desk,
But I was
looking
passing
under the
through.
bed, looking under her mattress.
But I like the place. It's very nice.
So make me
Yeah.
a perception check while you're looking through. And Tyrannus also in here listening to all this history. Is this really the town's history?
I
That
did
is-
Yes.
mention that there's a large portion of the town that is not literate.
But do you... He leans top against the wall and puts his hands together, fingertips on his brow. You mean to tell me that the people of Breach Hill legitimately believe a magical wizard came from nowhere to save a group of amnesiacs stranded in the middle of the Five Kings Mountains?
Well,
Have
what
you
would-
met Buddy?
Well, what would have you done if you came across people in need? I mean, it's the right thing to do.
Have you met Buddy?
It seems to be the general consensus, yes.
I don't see what you guys are so confused about. I mean, it seems pretty like straight out. As far as I can see, it seems.
See, it's very straightforward.
Yeah. See, I'm glad that she.
They
Resume. I knew you could catch on.
They were handpicked by the wizard.
According to Vaz's notes, yes. If they are to be believed, as there's no sources for her research here, simply these footnotes she wrote, but she appears to have spent some amount of time studying this.
It would make sense that people who were susceptible to that kind of story might have been selected.
So, a wizard came to build a utopia in the middle of the mountains with no contact with the outside world. This failed. Somehow, he abandoned them, felt bad, came back, and settled breaches. This is the long and short of it, yes?
Well,
So
that's
you-
Vaz's interpretation.
Yeah,
I suspect that she seems to be particularly uncharitable towards the residents here and also towards Breachton's motivations. It's possible she may have divined a grain of truth, but as you said, there's no sources, just her conjecture.
That said, I am inclined to believe the Order of the Nail and the Hellknight orders in general do not do things without good reason. And the Citadel Altarian, I have, admittedly, long wondered why here. The... Well, he gestures to resume. Perhaps this ring. This...
It can't be a coincidence that two powerful groups or factions have all descended on this place, believing there to be something here.
Although, if Citadel Altarian was in fact your order's first home, it might explain why there were so many illustrious figures entombed there.
Yes, Citadel Altarian was the founding of the Order of the Nail. This is where we originated long ago. The reasons for which are not so much lost to time, as far as I can tell, as closely guarded secrets. For what reason, I still am not entirely sure, but I am starting to piece together. There's clearly something here that many powerful groups have tried to bury. And even my own order. I mean, admittedly, I am not yet a Hellknight of the Order, so I am still an outsider for now. But I have been raised in the number Citadel Raid.
Oh, you're well on your way, Sir Knight. I'm sure you'll be fitting right in
But
with
this
the
is
Tyrant
something
Legions.
that I just cannot rationalize allowing me to come here to investigate this place, to find my family's ring. And not only not telling me of whatever it is that truly lurks beneath the Citadel, but also not stopping me.
Why would they stop you? I mean, think about it. If I had not been a follower of the goddess Alceta, who is an extremely remote and little worshipped elven deity from a completely different region, you would have no idea what the Ring of Alceta even was, and you would have never come to the conclusions you came to. How could they have possibly predicted that?
And if the Cinderclaw cultists hadn't apparently crossed halfway across the world to invade the place, you would have had little reason to go and investigate beyond the vault where you found your ring.
And these skeletons would not have been raised were it not for this Vaz's intervention.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I suppose it all circles back. Well, this raises, I suppose, several further questions. Where, well, and how, rather, do we proceed here? Yeah, roll an initiative check for me, right? As you're kind of looking around while we're talking.
Initiative? Oh, you mean perception. Sorry.
Roll initiative.
What? Just
No!
The mattress attacks.
Bed mimic!
All right, that's gonna be a 21.
With a 21, as you peek around your bedchambers, you're looking for really anything. You do actually find something of value. Stashed behind the sort of haphazard heap of clothes that did not apparently pass a selection process to be brought along are a small bundle of scrolls. There are 4 of them. And anybody got read magic? Is read magic still a thing in 2nd edition? I'm actually not 100% on how scroll
I
identifying works in 2nd
don't
edition.
know.
So we're gonna learn a rule. here. Gonna go to our old friend, the Archives of Nethys, who is going to give us insider secrets as to how, because I believe this is actually the first time that
Wouldn't it be on the screen?
identifying is not one of the things that is
Oh.
super in here. I don't have the specifics of scrolls, but I can find it real quickly. Casting a spell from a scroll. All right. The spell is a common spell from a spell list or a spell you know. A single recall knowledge action immediately identifies the scroll. Otherwise, you identify it just like you do magic items now. Okay, so scrolls are no longer segmented from other magic items. They are identified the same way as everything else.
Okay.
But if it is a scroll, you have the arcane, primal, and divine spell lists at your disposal. So with a brief moment between the two of you, the only one you don't have is occult, and none of these are occult specific. You would be able to identify these as, you ready? Whoever
I gotcha.
whoever wants to write these down real quick, like
we do have to roll. It is
You don't,
a
it's
recall
auto-success.
knowledge.
No, if it's on the list.
yeah, if
you
it's on
just
your list,
get
it's
it.
an automatic
Oh.
success. Yeah, you understand. Basically, read magic's not a spell anymore. It's a thing that you know is part of your ability to cast magic,
It's
or
like,
I
it's
guess
okay. I speak jive.
are born with if you. If you're a sorcerer, it's inherent intrinsic knowledge in your blood. You have a scroll of acid arrow,
Okay.
a scroll of false life, a scroll of obscuring mist, and a scroll of touch of idiocy.
Are
Now
any
that
of
one.
those mine?
I believe false life is divine, obscuring mist I think is divine. Touch
I
of it.
hadn't seen them on my lists.
I think these actually might
False
all
life
be
is
arcane.
arcane.
They
I
might
have-
all be arcane. I think
I
all
have-
4 of these are arcane.
I have
actually.
false life. I don't have any of the other 3, but I can make rolls.
Well, but you don't have them. They're arcane spells.
Right, but I'm a sorcerer.
They're not in her repertoire.
They're not
But
in
they
my
don't have to be
repertoire.
in your repertoire.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
The
and
scroll,
if
that's
they're
why I said
common
like
spells?
it's kind of they're common spells
Okay, got
that
it.
are part of your
Part of your supposed to just
tradition.
get it. Okay. So I
just have
heard
it.
money, 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 and money.
Well, money, 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 useful.
No, I heard money, 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 and money.
So you do
Persistent acid damage.
dig these up as you are working through here, and I believe these are all second level spells.
Yeah.
The acid arrow is, I believe.
Acid arrow is
Touch of
false
life
is
I'm-
touch of idiocy.
Touch of idiocy is.
Probably is. I think obscuring mist is first level. So the second level spells are worth 12 gold pieces apiece. So it's actually 36 gold pieces in scrolls and 4 gold pieces for the obscuring mist scroll.
Nice.
But that's their value. You get half when you sell them.
I believe you were saying.
Well, I was
Touch
able
of
to
money,
make the
acid
equvalent
gold.
of 2 of those scrolls by sitting
How
down
do you
at a
not get
table
gold arrow?
False cash.
for a couple hours.
I was just gonna say money life.
I would say Squid's not going to let us do that again. Otherwise, why are we adventurers?
I
But-
would like to hold on to at least one of those, though. They could
Who
be
is
useful.
going to buy these in Breachel? Vases.
Sal.
Yeah, Sal comes back. We have rollable
Hey, magic
swords.
swords!
Rollable swords. There you go.
Oh, I heard of these. You get these over from Druma and Cheliax, where they have those as incantations, and they roll them up in the, and they're just the portable casting swords. Yeah, I know these.
I guess I'll hang on to them for the moment.
Oh, did you want to have some just in case, we got desperate and we need to cast something?
I mean, for the time being, it would be good to have you hold on to all 4 of them, just in case.
Yeah.
So, this, I suppose, perhaps answers what Vaz was doing in the Crypts. If she was seeking the same thing that my order was originally, and this Lament Breachton may have been, perhaps she thought she could glean this knowledge by speaking with the dead. We
It's
still
a
are unclear
possibility.
on what purpose, but
Well, maybe she didn't realize that the Order had left such thorough guardianship of your sanctuary, as it were, and she believed that she could get a history of why they were there out of them, not realizing that there would be security involved.
what about, and he walks out there and just gestures towards the torn up little study, what about this? This was the room she went through all the efforts of putting these spikes, this trap in the doorframe. Surely something in here is of value, of interest, or can At least tell us somewhat of her motives.
Well, there's an awful lot of mess in there. Perhaps if we all worked together, we might be able to go find something.
Well, at the moment, we've an awful lot of time.
I also have a theory about that. So
Time?
Yes, that, but we'll talk about that later. She had a person in here with her, Calmont, who was helping her do things. He betrayed her. He clearly was not working with her, but perhaps he read some of her research and had no clue what it meant. And so he made some very basic but false assumptions.
He did not seem the brightest sword, no.
No, but if she was worried that he would come back and perhaps try again, it's possible that this trap was not intended for us, but for him.
Well, I believe this trap was intended for whoever
Anyone.
opens this door without permission.
The spikes were on the top half of the door frame as well.
It's indiscriminate. It's clearly meant to protect. But
let's go through the room
yes, let's just
thoroughly.
dig through this. So, who wants to dig through the study and try to find something? Resme, Esvis.
I could try again if you'll let me.
I mean, yeah, you can spend time. You made a perception check to basically look around as an action. That was
Okay.
you took a seek action. You can spend time.
I'm pulling you over to the side because you still have some blood trickling down your body.
I'm practically patched up, but
I am
Let's-
pulling you to the side because there is still blood trickling down your body.
that's mostly laundry detergent that I need. But if you
There's only so much space in this little study. Tyrannus will poke around the front of the shop a bit more,
Sure.
looking behind something, trying to find anything.
Let's
that might be
grid
useful.
this out so that we know what parts everyone is working in and we're organized about this.
How about you, Buford?
I will just be hanging out.
You're on the door frame. I mean, yeah, you can't read. What are you gonna do here? Like, who's in the doorway? What about that one?
Is this the equivalent of like the kid watching the dad work on the car? You know, you're just like,
hold the flashlight.
No,
Yeah.
this is the equivalent of what you would have been doing
You're holding the
last
lantern.
session.
You're holding the lantern.
hold the
You're
lantern.
helping.
Yeah, there we go.
So, with 10 minutes, Dalren gets pulled out of this, and Esvis and Resme are looking through the room as Roar is going to tend to your wounds. Are you an expert in medicine now?
Yes.
So every time you make a medicine check, you have to decide if you're trying to do a trained or an expert.
I'm doing
check.
a trained.
Okay, yeah, but it is a thing you have to pick because you have different
Yeah.
diseases and different outcomes. Because you can give them a simple treatment, or you can try to use more complicated, more difficult means to really heal him, to treat him better. But it is harder to do.
Pretty sure I just crit. That's a 25.
25 does in fact crit, so you get the 48 anyway. So
Yeah, so
You need to roll at least 4.
I need to roll at least a 4.
you gotta get a 4 on 48. You think you can do
make
it?
Hold on. Do I have 4 of them? I don't.
You can
Now I
have-
do.
Yeah, man, this man next to you has like 9 sets of dice in front of him.
I actually rolled 2 1s.
Hey,
but,
perfect.
Yeah, that's
if the other two are also ones, I'm
that's
back to full.
That's
So,
a
yeah.
12.
Oh, perfect. I'm good.
Dalren's patched up over the course of 10 minutes, and in that time, Buddy holding the lantern here, Esvis and Resme looking through the study. You've dug through a lot of what's there, but it's just such a mess, and there's a lot here. Even just on the tables, heaped up and scattered throughout a couple of drawers too. You maybe halfway dug through the room. But if Resme and Esvis want to make a perception check with his first 10 minutes, perhaps you have happened upon something useful.
15.
23.
Well, the 23,
Yes,
Esvis will have turned up one thing tucked away in a corner of the desk, written in a very rushed hand. Aha! An entrance to Alcetta's ring, the Guardian's Way.
Resume.
Yes?
And Esvis just immediately hands you the paper.
With Alcetan lore, would that specifically mean anything to me?
Guardian's Way does not have any significance in Alcetan religion or doctrine, but Buford,
What about
you
Lord
got a lot
Richo?
of writing
What? Yes.
for an illiterate man over there. Buford, I know your family did suffer from the somewhat recent Goblin Blood Wars. You were probably, I don't know how old Buford is, but
Probably like 8.
so you wouldn't have fought in them yourselves. But
I thought you were saying Buford's 8 years old right now for a second.
Only mentally!
It's very
no,
sad. He was
it's-
born on a leap day, and
you have
It
lore.
was only 28 years ago.
Yeah, you have
or it was
lore-
only 20 years ago, and I was 8
yeah,
years old.
you
Probably.
have lore goblins or something from your. Bringer. Oh no, we that was what we were looking at. You have lore farming because we ended up going to the farmer. Do you have society? You want to roll untrained society?
Sure. I got a 4. The total is 4, also.
So, weirdly, of the group of you in town, so none of the rest of you were born and raised in Breach Hill.
No.
I have lore Breach Hill because I've been studying here and trying to learn a whole lot about the town.
Give me a lore Breach Hill check then.
One time I'm gonna get to roll this, people.
Maybe useful in other situations.
That's gonna be a 16.
So, with a 16, it doesn't. Guardian's Way doesn't tickle your brain because of any connection with Alceta, but you know you've read about something, some reference to that in Breach Hill's history. Oddly, of the group, Buford is the other one who has some recollection, like the name Guardian's Way sounds familiar to you, but you can't place
Guardian's
on
Way.
what.
Go back into the other room where the history of Breach Hill was. Does it have an index?
It does not, no.
Flip through it real quick, just looking at headings, and see if I can trigger my memory just by looking at sections of the book to see if I can get some sort of like category going in my head.
So as you flip through this, it would nothing in this history would register for that. This goes, and this book is something that's been updated in its current form by Jorah Blacktusk in the archives, and by the provider of the archives before that, and before that. It's kind of a running, living history of Breach Hill. But that takes time. At the moment, it's currently being updated to detail all the events of the Goblin Blood Wars. You catch it there. You know it has some relation to the Goblin Blood Wars from 20 years ago. It was some kind of a military outpost or something.
Okay,
Is anybody trained in society? Look at Dalren. You tried your Breach Hill lore for this.
Clearly, plot is just not going to happen. We're just going to settle down and go raise.
Well,
So I got a 17 in total, so I might get something. I don't know.
yeah, you may get something.
With a 17, you would be able to think about confirm that because you have spent some time reading up on Breach Hill and cataloging your own adventures, and I mean, perhaps you have found the strange origins of the town somewhat fascinating as well. You would know that it was a military outpost that was used in the Goblin Blood Wars to try to keep battle further away from Breach Hill. You know it's somewhere north of town in the mountains, but it's not on the main road. It was off somewhere to try to stem the tide of goblins flowing in almost from the borders of Druma.
Oh, of course. The old military outpost back from the Goblin Blood Wars.
oh, thank you. That was gonna kill
It's
me.
in the mountains somewhere, but I'm sure Voz must have a book on the wars. It's check the shelves in the main area.
Buford.
Look, honestly, the bandages are fine.
Buford, when you
Darn,
were...
I'm just gonna go look through the shelves to see if I can just find a book on the Goblin Blood Wars.
There would not be yet. The difficulty being that there's so little trade in Breach Hill and so little, honestly, literacy in Breach Hill.
Yeah, no
that
one
these
wrote
things
anything
get
down.
updated very slowly. It's largely you and Jorah Blacktusk that do any amount of business trying to catalog or write up anything in the town's largely uneventful history.
We'll either
He's
have to
still
check
trying
with Jor-El
Yeah,
or
he's
we'll...
still trying to catch up on the Goblin Blood Wars.
Buford, when you were
Maybe
a
the town
child,
hall.
did you play anywhere? Was there anything specific, any stories that your parents told you, maybe off past your farm, maybe away where you and the other children would go and your parents told you not to go there, or they told you a story about it and maybe it stuck in your mind?
Well, there were many places I wasn't supposed to go as a kid.
Anywhere outside the farm, probably, but... Baltus Burton. He's old enough, by human standards,
Oh.
to have been cognizant enough to perhaps
Yes,
remember where they
maybe.
are. Perhaps we could check with the town councilor.
So at this point, it is getting close to sundown, and they probably wouldn't be available at the town hall today, but that's something you could certainly follow up on. And Tyrannus shrugs. Well, then, as I see, we've two different routes we could pursue here. This Vaz, I do not know her, but she seems to be thorough in her research. If there's something down in the crypt stills that may be useful to us, some things that may tell us more than whatever this Guardian's Way is, but we could simply attempt to find this ring, but we still don't really know what it is or why anyone wants it.
Well,
Perhaps biased, of course, think it would be best perhaps to rest on this for tonight. If Vaz had traveled out here and seeking this thing, she'd had all the time that we spent, that you spent, rather, tuning up the Pig's Ear Tavern as headway. The day isn't going to set us back much now.
Of course, Vaz may very well have retired out of reach.
We may find more returning to the crypts.
It's
I'm
possible.
only concerned as to what may still lurk there.
I'm sure we could handle it in any case, but Vaz is... don't give her too much credit. Her emotion and her bias seeps into her writings. It's the sign of a bad scholar. But still, there may be something useful there that we could find.
there's also the possibility that there's more than one passage leading different places.
There is, and I'd rather not talk about it. And Esphus is actually very not okay at the mention, especially at the mention of the mountains, and just gets up and starts to just like once Tyrannus has mentioned like, let's retire for the night, I'm like, great idea, and just immediately starting to go for
what passage? Esphus, where are you going?
Has he been inside the Citadel previously?
Did you
Before
find
us?
something?
Nope, sure didn't, and he's just
Esphus, let's talk about this.
let's not, and I'm opening the door and just out, just
And Esphus just leaves.
yeah, it just leaves.
Runs right into the back of a town watchman.
That was odd.
Very curious. Struck a nerve, I suppose.
Does your friend know something we do not, Doran? Resme?
Well, he's a local, so it's possible that something bad happened to him when he was a child up in those mountains.
Well, it's also getting late. It's also quite possible he's simply tired.
No, I've not known Esphus very long, but I don't think he cares one way or the other how late it is. That was a very emotional reaction.
Honestly, with the time we have spent together, I have no barometer of what Esphus does and does not care about.
But he's so demonstrative.
Is he?
Are you calling my friend a monster?
No, I'm saying that he has a very... It's deep, still waters, but there's definitely something beneath.
Rosemary, I think you're being a bit of a romantic here.
this an
I
elven
haven't
saying?
noticed him twitch so much as a facial muscle. Are you certain about this?
Look, I am not an elf as a pair of you are, and I have spent very little time dealing with them. This past week has been more than the rest of my adult life combined, but if you can read him,
You're also not a woman, which puts you at an automatic disadvantage.
He could just be afraid of heights.
he just like looks back and forth. Is Esphus a woman?
No, he's not a woman, but
You know,
men
I never
don't look at other
considered that
men
either.
like that. Men don't think about what other men are thinking in their secret, deep, dark hearts. Believe me, you
I
don't.
took that entirely incorrectly. I mean, I know that elves are more, and he just kind of gestures towards Dalren.
Wiry? Lithe?
Yes.
Elegant?
We'll go with those words.
Intelligent?
I think he
Brave?
says I look like
Porcupine.
I look fairly feminine, I suppose.
Well, you are.
I do have spindly scholar fingers.
I am fairly feminine. Is it possible that I might... Of course I am.
Look, what if we simply retire for now, and
But we
make
just
our way
started
up
this adventure and
back to
thing.
the Pig's Ear, and back to the Crypts tomorrow morning?
Okay.
It's
See
much
if
more
there's-
convenient to go that way than it is to hike all the way around the mountain.
And besides, we don't even know where this Guardian's Way is, other than north of town in the mountains. That is hundreds of square miles.
Well, there'd definitely be more research we would have to do before we could figure out where that would be.
I'm not particularly sure I want to talk to Bulgus Burton about this yet. He's a canny old man, and I really don't want to bring this up to him because he's going to ask us why we want to know.
Vincent Rowe, you live
And
in the archives, don't you? If
could
I
not
don't, you
simply tell
ask
him?
your orc friend.
I can certainly try.
Not ready to talk about a fairy tale until I know it's real.
Well, I'll do a little bit of research in the morning, and before we meet up, I should be able to have at least a rough answer.
And I have certainly had enough of dusty tomes and esoteric knowledge for one evening.
And we can get breakfast tomorrow before we leave.
Oh.
Fantastic. I will be heading back to the Visit's Grace. Find me there tomorrow when we are ready.
Okay.
And with a nod, resume, buddy, daughter in. Brewer, hopefully you can find something. Evening to all of you, then.
Who wants to
Takes his
accompany
halberd back from where he leaned up against the wall. And
Who
will
wants to
also give
accompany
it
me
leave.
back to my quarters?
Outside of town, I suppose?
Well, yes, I don't want to go alone. It's creepy out there.
That's a good point.
The
Nespa's
sun is
already
still
left.
up. It's like setting, but not.
It doesn't mean it's
Still
not
up.
creepy. It just means it's not dark.
There.
Well, Buford, you have to head out of town, right?
Well, where do you live again?
I'm on the way.
You're on the way out to my little slice of heaven. You're over on the northwest side of town, next where that big slope is.
Right outside the wall. A little bit into the forest, but not far.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. You can tag along.
Thanks.
So unless there's anything further that the four of you that are still here want with the Reliant Book Company, I suppose that then leads us to everyone returning home for the evening.
To the next
I
morning.
would, on the way back,
Oh,
swing by.
before we go, we should try to make sure that we're back in town to meet up. I got an invitation to an event.
All right. Tomorrow's Caden Kellyan's day, ain't it?
It wouldn't do to...
Who?
Oh, you know, the most important, you know.
Are you trained in religion?
No.
Oh, okay, fair. That's kind of, I had you pegged as person who knew things. Fair enough.
I know important
Wow.
things.
How long have you been in Breach Hill?
I don't know, about 8 months?
I feel like it would be fairly difficult to not have at least like heard that name, because Caden Killian's probably the
the
primary
prominent,
deity in
yeah.
Breach Hill. Yeah, it's
Okay,
like, he's
if she'd heard of
he's
him, that's fine. It's
you
just
may not know the specifics, but like if you've lived for any amount of time in Breach Hill, he is the main religion.
Oh,
So-
okay. I had no clue that was the case. I
Yeah.
just thought he
That
was
sounds
like
like it would
one of
be-
the smaller gods that
It
she
would
would pay
be
absolutely
very
no mind
isolated to. No, Caden's like a major pantheon deity.
to. Okay,
Should
never
he
mind.
be? Different question, but he is though.
When
You just kind of stumbled into it.
when
He
you
quite
embody
literally stumbled into it.
when you embody what the general populace loves, you get a lot of worship.
Do you know Caden Kalian's? Are you trained in religion?
I don't think he is, actually. No, I'm bad at it.
Is anybody trained in religion?
I mean, I know his story. Like,
Is
as a
anybody
player.
trained
Like,
in
yeah.
religion?
It's like
I'm trained in
shut,
religion.
not you.
I'm trained in religion.
Like you three would know, like without any kind of a check, like the origin story of Caden Killian. First of all, Galarian lore. There is a thing called the Starstone. It's,
I know about that one.
Yeah, it's in a chapel at the center of Absalom. Theoretically, if you touch it, you become a god. You literally ascend to deific status immediately. There's a big thing around it called the Test of the Starstone that is attempting people who try to get in there and touch this thing to become a god. I believe 3 people have done that so far. Norgorber, who is the god of information and assassination.
Definitely know who that is.
He is not a super nice dude, and he was the leader of a pretty major assassins guild in life, and that's about 100% of what's known about his human life. But he went through, with his incredible skill and knowledge, made it to the Starstone, ascended to godhood, first act as deity, went to the leader of his rival assassins guild, murdered him, and raised him as his herald.
Classic move.
He's like, and you're mine.
That's some Bruce Almighty nonsense right there.
That's pretty Bruce Almighty nonsense. The second was Iomadai, who was already Eridan's primary herald. She is was one of the head paladins of the Shining Crusade way back in the day when the demons were pouring forth through the world wound. And with Eridan's fall, I don't know if it was before or after when she actually took the test of the Starstone, but through her purity and her holy fervor, she made it through and became basically the stand-in for Eridan after his fall, became the goddess of righteousness and crusades and justice. Cain Kalian got really drunk one day.
Stumbled
and
through.
his buddy, they were getting increasingly ridiculous bets. His buddy bet him blackout drunk. He wouldn't try to go in there and touch the Starstone. Caden's like, boy, hold my ale.
Beer.
I'll be back. Completely blackout drunk, stumbled into the chapel and came out a god, still blackout drunk, who went back to the tavern with his drinking buddy, slammed his deific power on the table, did it, but apparently I have to leave now.
Now,
and descended up to become one of the primary pantheon deities of Galarian.
Yeah,
Now,
I
don't
Actual
forget.
origin story.
I actually read the gods and omens and stuff book, but I just didn't know if Resme, who would know who they are.
Now,
I mean, you would know you wouldn't know that backstory, but you would know he is that's drunken. He's the accidental god.
Yeah.
Is his
Okay,
title.
got it.
He is.
You don't have to take the test of the Starstone to ascend to godhood. There's one other individual.
Nethys also
Nethys.
exists, who just apparently learned the 11th level spell, I'm a god now, cast it and is a god now. But yeah, origin of deities in Galarian is a fascinating subject.
Most of them are gods. A few of them are weird cases.
The point is, you would at least have heard of Caden Kalian.
So the alcohol guy.
No one's talking about Razmir.
Huh?
The alcohol guy, yes. He is the drunk god. Drunk god, the accidental god, whatever you want to call him. He is the primary deity of worship in Breach Hill. Because of course he is.
Tomorrow's his holiday?
Yes, indeed. It's a big deal in town, and I happen to receive a personal invitation. Also, possibly a flyer. I'm not sure how you would really describe
It's
it.
not
But
like addressed to you. It definitely looks like it was just slid under doors.
But someone did put a lot of effort into drawing this. This isn't a print or anything. I think they even have
pretty.
a press out here.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, looking over this as the group of you return back home and the three of you leave the Reliant Book Company.
I
Buddy,
would stop by with Resme. I would be walking by on the way home. I would stop by one of my friends who is part of the guard, Gilrend, a guy that is just one of my friends that is, or a guy that has
Gilrend's
a different
fine.
name.
Okay, that's fine.
Happens to be a guard that I know way back. We grew up kind of together. And I'd walk up to him and be like, "Well, I just want to give you a heads up. You know, we just left Vaz's house. You know, these elven folk are friends with Vaz."
Is everyone with you while you go to him? Or is this,
No,
I
it's
mean, at
just
least Resme
Resme.
is because you're walking around, but it's
Yeah.
after you walk around.
No, it's just Resme. Well, because we haven't left town yet.
Right.
Just keep an eye out. You know, we don't really know anything for certain, but we always have each other's back, and just I thought I'd let you know that Vaz may be a person of interest.
Vaz, I heard Vaz closed her shop up and left town some days ago.
Oh, she is, and I don't think it'll be a problem. I didn't get any bad vibes from her. She seemed like an okay lady.
Y'all just came back from, buddy. Y'all just came back from Vaz's closed bookshop.
Actually, we've been drinking a little.
Have you been drinking?
No, buddy, you've been drinking. I've been walking around this town with you for the
you
past
just
half
kinda
an hour.
No, it's funny is all. I kind of thought that was a thing you grew out of at a certain point. Just busting in and poke around and see what's going on.
Well,
When you settle down with your wife and all.
I didn't go busting in there.
It
What do you think?
wasn't-
I'm
Oh,
some
sure
kind
you
of
did.
kid.
It
Sure
was
you
an
did, buddy.
accident. Oh, gosh, that's heavier than I thought it was. Why did you let me drink whatever it is you let me drink?
Buddy,
What is it you were drinking?
As a member of Breach Hill's Town Guard, I advise you it is in your best interest to inform me no further on your night's adventures, okay? And you just take this little lady.
Well, she does
Wherever
seem
it
to be
is.
a lot more tipsy than I previously remember, so I guess we'll just be moving back. But, you know, we're
And
good
as
old
friends, your wife ain't gonna hear none of this.
Well, that's awful kind of you, because, well, we'll just keep moving along here. Thank you much.
But it just kind of gets a little closer. Voz and this girl. The elves?
We're better in twos.
I ain't
Well,
asking.
well,
Look, buddy, I'm sure you seem you got right important business to be tending to tonight.
Two elves make a human in the south.
And
it's been an odd day, actually,
they don't
honestly.
seem to be too great on holding their ale, so I'll leave you to it.
A lot worse than I had previously thought. And
I can't hold anything right now. Why would I want to hold it? I've drank it.
I'm just
Ruining
laughing.
elven reputation.
Further developing whatever elven stereotypes Breach Hill may have. You guard chuckling, puts his hands up. I heard
They're
of this.
fun at parties.
Makes his way off back to the night to do whatever
Moving
it is
on.
he has to do.
After we've gotten far away, let's not go telling everyone that we're committing crimes in town.
we ain't committed no crimes. Have you committed any crimes recently? What have you been drinking, by the way? Because I haven't seen any kind of flask.
It's invisible.
You got an invisible flask?
Of course,
Well,
that's why
man.
you've never seen it.
Well, what's in it?
Alien would be proud.
Look, if you can't see it, then you haven't earned the right to know. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Huh. I didn't know you could do that kind of magic. I mean, gosh, that would have really helped that, Suki?
Zuri.
Zuri.
Suki. He's a different person. He's not Pathfinder related.
Notice me, Buddy Chan.
I think he goes by Archie now, but
So, thank you for walking me back. And, this is for your wife. You know the feathers we found? I made them into that necklace I promised you. With one of my chains.
I'm sure she'll find that really interesting. I'm sure she loves walking around in peacock feathers.
Just tell her it's from you and you picked it up on your adventures because it matches the beautiful color of her eyes. Say exactly that and nothing else.
Okay, yes. Eyes, peacock feathers. We're good to go.
Have a good night, buddy.
Oh, by the way, can I see your horse?
No. Not right now. It's invisible too for the moment, but when it's light out, you can see her.
I knew it wasn't a normal horse. I knew it. See? You see this? This is why this.
You
know,
are an incredible judge of human nature.
I'm a sharp man sometimes.
You are.
Okay, well, good night.
Good night.
I'll be sure to tell my wife about these feathers here.
Okay.
so Resme home, Espis and Dalren, Tyrannus making their ways home.
Blissfully unaware.
Sure. As you return back to the archives here, Jorah Blacktusk, the half-orc proprietor, one of the only half-orcs in town, actually, gives you room and board for you helping him out with whatever odd jobs it is you do around here. Helping keep the place tidy, basically being a scribe and secretary. But as you
Performing
arrive back to the
clerical
archives,
duties.
Blacktusk is just organizing a shelf, looking through some things, and pulling out a book and reading through it. He sees you enter. Oh, Roar. Barely seen it. You were a tale of you for days. You're really serious about this Call for Heroes thing.
Yeah, I'm not about to let people go off on adventures without being properly cared for.
No, I've heard. I've heard what happened with Calmont and what happened again with Calmont and... What, are you some kind of bounty hunter now out trying to track him?
No, as far as I'm aware, he's no longer our problem to deal with. I was told by the council that they'll take care of him.
Well, very well then. Good news, everything's been tended to fair enough, but just... curiosity's sake. The pig's ear? Really? And he just kind of points to your holy symbol. It seems the last tavern you'd be interested in.
Oh, I'm not particularly interested in any taverns, but when you need information, sometimes you have to help people out that you don't necessarily like.
Alright. Just glazing over that somehow anyone in the pig's ear could conceivably have information that's of interest to you. Just glazing over that one entirely. Only you, Rur, would show up to a place like that and think legitimately helping them out.
Well, I got the information I needed.
I swear you need a chaperone around town.
Probably. That would... Technically, I have one. Dalaran's been running around with me.
Look, there's tea in the other room. Probably not entirely cold if you're looking for a drink before you retire for the evening.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Do you happen to know anything about the phrase, the Guardian's Way?
The phrase?
I
know the Guardian's Way of the place. The outpost.
Yes, I guess. Do you know anything about it? Like where it might be, what it is?
And he'd close the book he has and shelve it again, and then motion for you to follow him back into the study, where he is currently working on iterating upon the log of Breach Hill here. And the Breach Hill Outpost of Liberty, as it is, it's one of the military outposts around from the Goblin Blood Wars. Why? I haven't heard anything about it in decades, really, but odd that it turns up for you around the same time that it's when I'm working on annotating our books.
Well, it just so happens to be directly tied into Fort Altarius. That is how you say that, right?
Altarian.
Altarian.
Well, not in any way that I've uncovered. It was just a military outpost that they'd set up in the woods, about maybe 6 miles northeast of town. It's miles past the Citadel, further out the bluffs, stemming the tide of goblins that were flowing out of the caves nearby up in the hills, trying to keep them at their source and not let them just rampage down into the town of Breach Hill proper. It didn't do fantastically, but what connection could it have with Altarian?
Well, that's what we're looking to find out. Part of the fortress has collapsed, unfortunately, making it impossible to check in the lower sections. But...
Collapse? It's scarcely been abandoned a decade, bro. How's it in such disrepair it's collapsing?
Damage. It was directly damaged by a creature. That was part of why we had to go up there. But apparently, there's some kind of pathway or linkage between the lower sections and the Guardian's Way.
Huh. That's odd. I know... Well, Guardian's Way was connected as a cave network not far by. Part of the Goblin Blood caves, where they'd all been flowing out from in the first place. But I guess there's not a ton I know about the Citadel, really. All the facets of Breach Hill, Altarian and Hellknight Hill, I know the least about, certainly. And I suppose it's possible the caves loop back through. They'd have to be quite extensive, but we never really fully charted out where the goblins had been living in the aftermath. But, again, I have to ask why, bro.
Well, we need to get to the deeper sections because there's still, I believe, a few individuals trapped down there. So we're trying to get to them as quick as we can before the worst happens.
And so with some amount of your evening, you kind of indulge Black Tusk's curiosity to some extent, because he's just still mind blown that Rur freaking Ashblood, Serenite midget of occasional magic and mostly shelving, is out doing big hero things in the wilderness. But he is able to pinpoint for you exactly where Guardian's Way is.
Fantastic.
So you'd be able to easily find it. As well as informing you that it's not a terribly large outpost. It was set up in a wooded enclave kind of near some bluffs where a lot of the goblins had poured forth from. And it's not much. It was really a single wooden building a single barrack where some guards have been stationed. Because, I mean, Breach Hill's not large. Even when we had to fight to defend the town, there was only so many people and there's only so many supplies. They managed a single-story shack more than a barrack, and a couple of outposts up in the trees around to be roosts for archers to hold back when the goblins came forth from the bluffs. But it's scarcely more than a campsite, really, in the grand scheme of things. But
Interesting.
a campsite that you can now find. So, with that, everyone rests for the evening. You attempt to present your wife with this beautiful peacock necklace, you buddy.
Yeah, I do. I hand it to her, and I'm supposed to give this to you because your eyes look like a bird, is what I was. Your eye.
Well, it's on a silver chain, so there's that.
So it's the feathers from these weird peacocks.
And I've threaded it through my silver chain, so it kind of, when she puts it on, it will just look very ornate, kind of like she's wearing plumage.
All right. So you hand it over to your wife, and she takes it, just kind of just holds it, looking at it, skeptical as you're trying to explain whatever it is that you're trying to explain here. Buford, what in the nine-hells is this?
Well, I don't know. I was supposed to tell you your eyes look like a bird and hand you this necklace, and then...
Supposed to from what? Boy, you've been out without much more than a word for days, and you come back with a chain and some feathers?
I mean, if you're gonna be happier, I also have 4 gold.
Well, at least you've been doing something right, and she just kind of tosses it onto a table.
Why do I try?
And a big old suit of armor.
Oh, I also got, look at this.
You've had that for a couple days now.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that's not brand new.
Yeah, that's
And
old.
she's seen that, so you get home in this full plate. Oh. The 4 gold piece has got to be, what, half of what you spent on that ridiculous suit of armor?
I didn't spend any money on the suit of armor.
Oh, so you just kind of happened upon it.
No, someone
a good
else spent
trader
money.
in the goodness of his heart hand this out to you.
Well, no, someone else spent with gold on this armor. I just happen to have it on me right now. But don't worry, I've got it all covered. You know, I'm trying to get better about this money business, so I brought back this 4 gold. I have it right here.
She is pleased to see the 4 gold, at least.
Maybe
feather,
not you.
Peacock necklace, whatever. The husband in weird armor with a bubble hat, whatever. Happy you're making some money out there. You're doing something. 4 gold pieces is a lot of money.
That's
so
a lot of gold.
Whatever it is you're doing, well, questions notwithstanding. At
Well,
least
you
you're
know,
bringing home some
adventuring
coin.
types, you can get up to do a lot of weird business.
But the next morning, you would all awaken nice and refreshed and ready for another day of adventure, of some kind of adventure.
Another day at the Citadel.
Another day in the eternal pit that is the basements of Citadel Altarian.
Our favorite place.
Gotta love it. So, oopsies, whacked my mic there a little bit.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Is there any sort of preparations or anything that anyone wants? Are you going to head over to Cadence Keg in the morning?
So I thought it was like an evening kind of festival
Let's
thing.
have the day. The whole day is Merry Meet.
If
Yeah,
you
it might be an
think
evening.
Yeah, we're not gonna. If we go there
Yeah.
early, we're not gonna
never
be
gonna
much
get out of there.
conditioned to go and actually go adventuring. So
Why
Well,
not?
it's not the Pig's Ear, where they have ale, pickle juice, and occasionally some day-old meat or bread they've scrounged up from somewhere else to serve it for an evening meal. Cadence Keg is a fairly nice place. It's well-maintained, and it's very well-kept by the church who runs all of that, by the cleric who runs the church/bar, because it is a statute to her god. They have morning things. They have meals. They have coffee. They have teas. Though it is traditionally a little bit more spiced, perhaps.
Eh.
by
than a
coffee,
standard
do
coffee.
you mean a dark dwarven stout?
Kinda, yeah. Because again, Breachel doesn't have a lot of trades, so like you don't have proper coffee beans.
Is this like a Kalian coffee?
Yes. So going there in the morning, perhaps not a great idea.
yeah, that's my thoughts.
So you all,
How much does an expanded healing kit cost?
uh,
Because I tried looking it up in the book and I couldn't find it.
I think it's like a ton. It's like 50 gold or something. It's like
It is
super
actually a
duper.
lot. Let me look. It is a bunch. I can find this real quick.
It literally just
It
says
is
lots.
It is in fact 50 gold.
Damn.
It is 50 gold. They are not cheap. So if you wanted to acquire one of those,
You need the
that's a
bones.
pretty decent investiture. It is more than a lesser potency rune. It's almost twice as much as a lesser potency rune.
Yeah, we
actually.
don't have it in the common stash. But
How much do we have?
in the common stash,
Yeah.
we've got 38.
I've got 9.
So 47.
Well, I mean, like, all of us could probably pool together.
you could
enough
pull together
cash to
100%
get
of your
it, but-
resources to get expanded healer's tools, which
I'm
would
not
give
worried
you
about
a
it.
+1 item bonus to medicine checks.
It's something I want. I was just curious.
Yeah, it's definitely nice, but I think it is a little possibly beyond the current means of everyone. So you all gather together, stop by the Wizard's Grace at some point to pick up Tyrannus, and then head back around to the Pig's Ear to make your way back underground to the crypts underneath Citadel Altarian.
Are there any alchemical components in town that we could just buy?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there is a general store. Quarters and Bits has got all sorts of different things. And also, Wizard's Grace itself, the proprietor is a caster and has both magical and alchemical components and tinctures for simple things that she sells. So Wizard's Grace is by far the most stocked of the town's taverns. Well, Caden's Keg's the most popular because it is, Caden's Keg and all about the alcohol. Wizard's Grace is a lot more variety of things. You could absolutely get some alchemical components from Miss Gooseglow before you head over if you want.
A couple of acid flasks.
Yeah, she's got those as well. For various reasons. Doesn't ask a ton of questions. So as you all head to the Pig's Ear, armed and ready, make your way downstairs and journey the mile back through that long, singular tunnel to everyone's favorite place. That's probably a decent time for a midstream break, I figure.
Yeah.
Well,
And
we
we're
can-
back in this place.
You guys thought you were allowed to ever escape, ever leave Citadel Altarian's basements like there are other things in the Age of Ashes. Wrong. Back down we go. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, everybody. Stay tuned. When we return, we continue plumbing the depths here for really any kind of further information.
And
about
Garfield's
what be going
lasagna.
on. Possibly lasagna. I feel like that one's relatively unlikely, but I mean, who knows? Welcome back, everybody. We have returned to the inevitable depths beneath Citadel Altarian here. We have returned back down from whence we had finally left to continue exploring. There was a lot we had left unturned here, as in our first pass we had not really went out of our way to search more of this once we realized that it was packed with undead. Also, we had found this ritual and had tried to follow up this necromancer, but I mean, now it's been a week since any of that. So whatever head start Voz may have to whatever it is Voz wants isn't going to get any worse from a day or an afternoon of trying to see if there are further answers to be found here, back at Hellknight Hill. So as the group of you arrive back through this tunnel through the Pig's Ear Tavern, which of course Zuri is more than happy to just let you use whenever you want now. That's yours. You go nuts. You come back into this storage room, this last area here where they had the various regalia of the Order of the Nail and the Asmodean paraphernalia and everything, where you found the entrance to the tunnel originally. So as we begin to explore the crypts, we're going to head into exploration mode here. Burr,
Recalling knowledge.
I'll be thinking about it. Asphys,
Scouting.
Resume,
DM. Detect magic.
Yeah.
I'll be searching.
And button the shield up. So each of you, with your various tasks prepared, heading together back through these eternal undercrofts, not taking the 17 that denotes that room with you. There we go. So as you arrive back into the room where you'd originally found Voz's necromancy, it's been a week, and nothing seems to have changed, save for some more dust has fallen on all of this. Just this old, decrepit, musty air in the depths of the catacombs seems to have at this point largely hidden the tracks of Voz when she'd walked through here, as she had been only a couple of days behind her upon your first visit, but now these burnt out candles have dried out and even begun crumbling, as there's zero moisture down here. It's just ancient, dry, stale crypt air. Now, of course, this first door on the western wall leads back into that long hallway with all of the tombs in the center of the floor, the gravestones doubling as flagstones, where you'd fought the Hellknight commanders and their skeletal army. The southern door leads somewhere, possibly looping back around to that sepulcher which Tyrannus and I think Resume had briefly poked their heads just looking into, but had not actually entered, as it's on the southern side here, but you haven't been through this door at all.
Well, I guess we'd better head that way. And you'd notice Buford is exceptionally cheerful today.
Through the echoing.
Through the echoing, you can tell. He's exceptionally cheerful.
Puts his visor down, ka-thunk, and just echoing metallic Buford voice.
It's like
coming
ringing
from
a
inside.
bell.
So, go ahead and arrange yourselves here before this southern door, however you see fit.
I can't actually see. Is it right here?
It is right here.
Okie dokie. Well, I am assuming. Doot.
The huge.
Doot. 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 Doot.
We have quite the party.
That works.
We're making the squad here as everyone lines up ready for action.
I'm assuming that's where everyone wants
Yeah,
to be.
that's about
Yeah,
right.
that's
That's
good
where we
enough.
usually do.
Yeah.
Seems about right.
It's close enough.
Straight line breaching formation. Optimized for a lightning bolt coming through this door.
I mean, realistically, if we were breaching a door,
We'd have somebody here.
someone
Yeah.
would be here and stuff. But
Well, yeah,
you
this
said
is-
arrange
this
us
is,
in
I know,
going.
this is actually just your
Yeah.
and it largely works out because as you open this door into the darkness
That's the
beyond,
Joe.
it is in fact a very thin
It's
hallway.
actually a great big hallway. Yeah.
And it's a very long, narrow 5-foot corridor that leads.
Oh yeah,
further through.
we throw up light where we would normally throw
Yeah,
up light.
that's what you have. You have
Okay.
side here because I still I haven't changed that. I
good.
assume if you ever do want to change your configuration for light, let me know.
No, it's fine the way it
because
is.
I don't actually change it very much. I just assume you have the same thing. So as the group of you come forward, this does look similar to the sepulcher that Tyrannus and Resme had poked their heads into previously, the ossuary rather,
Right.
where these walls are filled with coffin-sized compartments of slits all up and down their length, stretching near floor to ceiling, most of which are occupied by shroud-covered bodies, a couple of them empty. There are also several of these stone counters spread throughout, these big slabs with an assortment of equally dried and crumbled bases of candles dotted around through them, beneath and above where some of these bodies are interred.
May I ask a quick meta question?
Sure, I can give you a quick meta answer.
So I have false life up from this morning that is necromancy. If I triggered it earlier and I come here with it up, would that trigger something?
So you mean a meta question like a question your character wouldn't know the answer to, but
Yeah.
you're just hoping I'm going to tell you. I am not. You
Oh,
don't know
fair
the
enough.
specifics
Got
of the
it.
necromantic
Okay.
words.
I didn't
thought you
know
meant a
if
meta question like a mechanics question. No, you meant a meta question.
Well, I
But,
thought that was a mechanics question, but if it's something
No,
that's
you
story
don't know the
specific.
specifics
Got
of
it.
these necromantic words. You know that Tyrannus has told you that it was like a necromantic fight fire with fire, that a necromancy magic in the crypts
Gotcha.
would cause these bodies to animate and defend it. But as you enter here, you can see there are some other things kind of spread throughout. There are an assortment of mementos spread throughout these candles here, and many of the various nooks, even where the bodies rest, have some things left around behind that were left with the body in memory. And Tyrannus corroborate this as he enters. And we take care of our own. We take great pains to inter them with as much respect as we can. Many choose to leave behind some of their belongings, not out of any misguided belief that the corpse can somehow bring it to some afterlife or anything, just as a show of respect.
That's a beautiful tradition. Druids do the same thing.
So,
I'll just start walking forward and walk through the room.
Well, I guess Doran's keeping an eye out, just looking for anything of interest, anything that looks like it might be out of place, or something that looks interesting, aside from just simple grave goods.
Door skewers.
door
Yeah.
skewers would be a good one to keep an eye out
Particularly,
for.
yeah.
And as you
Gelatinous cubes.
Promises we don't intend to keep.
As you continue further into the room here, as Buford and Doran kind of reach the middle of these long countertops, laden with a lot of just little trinkets, little carvings, tiny sculptures, works of art, occasionally punctuated with bracelets, amulets, some small pieces of jewelry. Along the southern wall, you can see that pieces of armor have been left. Some of the Hell Knight's various suits. Mostly their helmets have been left along with them. The southern wall, near every one of these nooks, is full, a much higher proportion than the rest of the room. And they have these small pieces of their battle gear left, their raiment ornamentally, much in the same way. But as you get to the center of this room, one of these helmets on the end of the counter nearest to you shudders.
Probably not supposed to do that.
Well, there could be rats in here, you know.
I'll ready the bow staff, and I'll reach out and try to whack it. Not taking any chances.
You are like 10 feet away from this.
Yeah.
Whap 'em.
My bow staff has reach.
Yeah, you reach out and you just bap this helmet over. Just, on the off chance there is like a rat or anything living in there. These are some ancient
I'm gonna
crypts
scare
that
the
have been
heck out of
abandoned
that
for
rat.
some time. And as you hit it, your staff clanks against the steel of the helmet, as if it was rooted onto the top of the counter where it's resting.
Oh, didn't expect that.
And it starts to glow, emanating a red energy as a faint mist starts to ooze out around it. And as you pull your staff back, the helmet starts to levitate, lifting up above the counter. As you see more and more and more of these faint, glowing eyes lighting up down the row as
That
more of the helmets activate.
Might be my fault.
That is definitely an initiative check.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm ready.
With your plus ones.
I am also ready.
Oh yeah, keep in mind there is a scouting, so you do have your plus ones.
It's been a couple weeks since we did any combat.
It has been a minute. So, let me start off with Rur.
27.
27. You I swear you exclusively roll like 19s and 20s for initiative. And
That's
like
a
garbage
17.
for attacks. You have a lot. You have plus 10 initiative.
No, I have a 9.
27.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scouting.
scouting. Right, scouting. Anyway, Espis.
17.
17.
What he has is a wisdom score.
Yeah, what I have is a wisdom
You're a
score.
wisdom caster. Resme.
24.
And Buddy.
23.
Ooh.
We're also quick.
Also, it wasn't so fast. I mean, it wasn't not like they sprung out of the darkness at you. You had a minute of this kind of developing.
And I had a sort of feeling it might happen.
Doran.
26.
Everyone's so ready. Look at this.
I mean, we were kind of prepared. We knew what we could potentially be
You guys
running
on an
into.
actual ball. All right, so
Tyrannus.
hold on. I gotta
Roll is
A 3!
Tyrannus isn't always placed in initiative, guys.
No, but you're about to get a 3 on the die.
Let's see. So I've got. What, you had a 17?
I got a 23.
23. Espis had a 17. Okay, so.
2 villain points right there you get? No.
Alright, I'm going to do it this way. For simplicity of not putting a bajillion initiative markers. We're going to use the numbers to denote numbers.
Ah, clever.
2 of them go between Buddy and Esvis. And then the other 3 are on the end. So this does not denote 2 helmets, but 5 that have their initiative spread down the table here. I guess I should have rolled Tyrannus first, because Tyrannus might end up in the middle here.
Natural 1.
Natural 20? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Ooh.
I'm sorry. Did you want Tyrannus to get a 27 on initiative? Because
I did.
Tyrannus got a 27 on initiative. He's tired of being bullied.
I am a proud Papa Bear.
You guys
right
have
now.
made fun of him for
I
like,
love that man.
5 sessions now, and he finally had baby's first good initiative check.
I go ahead of him.
You do.
Assert dominance, Rur.
I go ahead of him, but I'm also going to wait now.
So, here are an assortment
No,
of
because I got things I can do now.
tiny, vaguely head-shaped things.
I
that
think
you
I see
can-
where they are.
You can just put on those.
I'm gonna assume there's another one 2 more spots down
Sure
that
is.
way. All right.
Sure is another one, 2 more spots down that way. All right, Rur, you're up first.
I am looking at the range of a spell. Okay, fantastic. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, probably a good idea to use the hallway to our advantage, and I'm going to fling out a sound burst.
They are very tiny helmets.
Okay, it's just helmets.
They are literally floating helmets. They're just barely getting up. And as you ready here, you can see the first of it rising, levitating off with this dark mist trailing behind you. It looks pretty ominous. And why don't you also give me a religion check because you were recalling knowledge?
Secret check.
Secret check.
I almost rolled the dice.
Glad
Secret
you
check.
remember that because I don't.
It's
What's
plus
your religion
9.
modifier? +9? You've got no idea what animated Hellknight helmets are.
Roll it again.
Ooh, halfling luck.
Oh.
Halfling luck.
Is that reroll? No, you just
Once per day.
So you pick it. Okay. I actually rolled the same thing. So I rolled a 2 and then a second 2. I'm sorry. So
That happens.
this is unlike anything you've really seen. Like you know you're aware you can animate objects, and you're aware like spirits and specters exist, but this somehow seems to be some kind of hybrid of the two, as if a malevolent spirit is interred within the helmet itself. This is something near unique that you've certainly never heard of before, and you've no idea what they're capable of. But you can still spend an action to attempt to like rack your brain and recall knowledge normally. These aren't like you have failed, it's just it takes an action to try.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slap Tyrannus on the thigh and be like, get in there and go get him. And I'm going to...
Hey, with his halberd out. Right!
And I'm going to try to think real hard for a second about what these are. And...
Think with your special brain.
Go Winnie the Pooh.
You said 7? Or
9?
9? All right, so with a 9, as you really dig deep, though you may not recognize what the things actually are, you're pretty familiar with undead. And while you're relatively confident these things are undead of some kind, you can sort of notice some common themes between these inspectors and ghosts of the past. Fortunately, the spirit seems to be possessing the helmet itself, so they're not any kind of incorporeal. And you can attack the helmet as well as you could anything. And they also don't look like they're particularly mobile, so they shouldn't be terribly hard to hit. That said, this glowing emanation from inside of the helmet almost certainly belies some kind of power. Obviously, you don't feel like they're going to fly at you and ram into you. You're not sure what exactly they are going to do, but you are pretty sure that it would be at least helpful to not look directly into the helmets. You could avert your gaze from whatever it is they're going to do.
They appear to be possessed helmets. Don't look directly at them. Just smash them. And I'm going to blast the second one, the second from us, with Disrupt Undead.
Okay. And that's not a hit. That's a yes to save.
That's a
right?
save.
All
Yeah.
right. What kind of save?
Fort.
I'll remember this someday. Fortitude.
Yep.
What's the DC?
DC 19.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to fail. He's a
All
helmet.
right.
2d6 plus charisma.
D6.
Plus wisdom.
2d6. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
2d6 plus wisdom.
Where did my second D6 go? Can I borrow one? 11 damage.
Alrighty, so as this disruption, you see Rur cast this spell, and the energy of the second helmet as it rises up kind of gets muted a bit, and the helmet staggers and sinks back down a little way before the metal of the plate helmet itself crumples in a little bit from the force of the spirit writhing.
Is averting your gaze an action?
Averting your gaze is an action. It gives you
Okay.
+2 to your saving throw against any visual effects. But that will bring us to Tyrannus. And Tyrannus will stride forward a little ahead here to follow up on that same helmet. It takes just a second to grit his teeth and steel himself before he brings his halberd down towards this rising thing. And he is going to hit it. For 12 damage. And as he does, he just bashes it back down into the surface of the counter, near cleaving the ancient thing in two. Before swinging his halberd back around and aiming for the closest one, just attempting to swing again, sweeping towards the first. But a halberd is fairly large and unwieldy, and as this first one rises up and starts to gain more of this mass, his blade skates across the surface of the countertop underneath it. Doran.
Okay, so I'm noticing that Tyrannus's slashing blows seem to actually not really run into too much resistance cutting through this helmet.
Nope, seems fine.
Okay, so I'm going to drop
Okay,
the
so
bow
it's a
staff.
little ancient helmet, and he's just bashing right through it.
Perfect. So I'm going to drop the bow staff and ready my geese arm.
Okay.
And then he's going to take a powerful hit at that first one that's right in front of him. With the session reroll, hoping making
Yeah, you
me
see.
hit a little bit better.
It's time, combat. It's time to collect the session rerolls.
One more try.
Is that the one you got on dice jail before we started?
No, that's the one that was doing well by me. Hey, that's very nice. That's a 26.
26 will crit.
Woo!
Again, they are fairly slow-moving helmets. Like, they're small, but they're not very difficult to strike.
That's gonna be 18 damage.
And with 18 points of damage, you crunch this thing back down onto the stone. The sides of the plate helm fanning out as the thing is near flattened, and it wobbles, canting to one side as it continues trying to rise. This glow now just emanating out from underneath it.
Okay then. Well, I'll avert my gaze.
Resme. He does not look at the thing.
Resme will. Can I see that? Is that about 30 feet away? The one closest to me.
That's less than 30. You're definitely
Okay.
30. That's like 20.
Resme will grit her teeth and shout out an incantation, and she will also use Disrupt Undead.
Okie
And that
dokie.
is another fort save. DC 19.
He's going to succeed.
Half damage.
But is better than 0.
14.
So taking half of that with 7. After the blow that Dalren dealt it is certainly still enough to put out the light as this thing clatters down to the floor.
And then
And it was actually the first two that rolled the good initiative, so both of those two are down.
Resme will also avert her eyes.
Look at the ground. Don't look at the thing.
Conveniently, the two that we could see clearly were
Buddy.
the two that rolled well.
I am going to wait. I see these things going down, and I'm going to wait
Okay.
to see how these skulls react.
So that brings us to Espis.
I will. This one's in low light, correct?
You want to go here, you said?
Yeah.
Don't you have low light vision?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to double check and make sure
Um,
that these weren't in pitch black.
the light, if you can see it, it's not in pitch black. The map has the light as far, I can set the radius. So it is the radius of a light
We can
spell.
see that.
So if it is more than 20 feet from you, from Dalren, because Dalren and
Yeah,
Dalren's
that's probably the only one you can't see.
Okay.
Dalren's your nearest light source. So it's Dalren and Rur.
You said more than 20 feet?
Because, yeah, it's half. Because it's 40 feet, 20 feet is where it goes to dim light.
Then
So
that's outside of 20 feet right there.
5, 15. Yeah, they're all in low light, yes. All the ones you can see are in low light.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
I was
That they were
double
all in
checking.
low light. All right, so I will. How do you do?
But if you have a low light vision, you ignore the penalties for
Yes.
dim light.
So I will hunt prey. This one right here.
The middle one?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will hunted shot to take 2 shots. And
Prepare the gallon.
Commence the Gatling.
commence the Gatling. So first shot, 16,
16 will hit.
and second shot, 21.
21 will also hit. So 2 arrows, one after the other, slam into this helmet.
For 9 points of damage.
And as one and then the other bounces off, each leaving their small dents in the plate helm, knocking a little bit off kilter as it rises.
I will also avert my gaze.
You look down. Everyone looks away from the spooky thing.
God, I'm wearing pretty shoes.
Did you want to...
Yeah, question. Can I use a reaction if I have it? Because...
You delayed, so you have had a turn, so you have your reaction.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You have had a turn, you're just choosing to take it later, so you do have your reaction.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Good
Okay.
question. So, all 3 of these helmets now will rise up further off from their the counter they've been resting upon. The last of them flying up in here, kind of into sight. And as they rise
Didn't
from
move that one yet.
the stone,
Spooky.
they trail behind them not just this black mist, but what appears to be the entirety of a spectral spine uncurling, hanging beneath the helmet, with small bits of bone where the ribs would have been attached before, and this mist and glow emanating around it, giving the indication of just a bit of the upper part of a torso beneath the head. But the only solid part of this clearly are the helmets themselves. And the first of them moves in, or just floats up, staying where it is, and then fires. That has to be slightly further forward. Yeah, this does need to be slightly further, because they're actually ignoring Tyrannus. So they are shooting the first at Buford. What is your AC? Your shield
22.
is still raised because you
From-
haven't
yeah.
actually had it.
Yeah,
so
so
you still have
22.
the pre-raise.
Yeah.
And it manifests what appears to be a tiny black nail that flits through the air with a hiss before it thuds into your shield with just the most minor little sound, just right into the edge of it. But if you look, after it's hit, there is nothing left there. Then it will fire again. Also missing. Before drifting in closer towards the group. The second of these floating helmets will also fire a nail towards Buddy, whose shield is just catching him today. And he's only got one more shot because he has already moved. And you're going to block that one as well. You're just hiding behind this. A literal hail of these spectral tiny black nails are just darting into your shield.
Do they, like, make any noise? Is it like...
Yeah, they're regularly sized nails. They're really small.
And
so
then
it's just
they
tiny
just-
little hisses through the air before they just tink against his shield and are gone. And the last one, flying up towards the group as well, is finally going to hit you with one of them. And you block a lot of these nails, but one of them slips through, catching into your armor. And as it does, you feel an overwhelming stabbing pain rack through you. You take 6 damage
Okay.
from this tiny nail just darting through your armor, and I need a fortitude save.
Okay.
When you're the hammer of God, everything's a nail.
Okay, fortitude, that is 22.
And with a 22, through this stabbing pain, you just kind of grit your teeth and hold firm, and you can feel this nail fade away as all the previous ones had once they were hitting against your shield. As he has hit you, this floating head, its gaze now focuses in on Buford. The red glow becoming a red pinpoint of Buford, becoming visible red eyes beneath the helmet. And I need you to make a will save.
Okay. Okay. You say. Will save, you say. That is a 21.
Well, the good news is you have fantastic saves.
I do have
With a
fantastic
21,
saves.
you can feel a growing dread, like fear, welling up inside you, but Buford is not here to run away. Buford is not here to be scared. Buford's not here to back down when he got hit with one tiny little nail. And you shake it off. So then, Buddy, light comes around to you. Assuming you want to step in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll the one that hit me clearly is the most competent of all the skulls. So I'm going to step over to this one, and I have my hammer out, and I'm just going to be like swatting this thing, just trying to bash it out of the sky, or out of the air, I guess. Would be
It's
the
kind of
better.
floating about
Ah.
5-6 feet off the ground.
Okay, so that is a 27.
27 crits!
Perfect. That's what I'm looking for.
Buford's coming in to bash.
Yes. Okay. So this is a D8.
Clearly,
yes.
they are evil.
I mean, they're Hellknight, and they're also undead. They're
Okay.
it's
So
like the most
that's
guaranteed evil thing.
12. 12. 16 times 2.
32.
You do 16 on a hit?
It's no. It was 1.
I was like-
so it's 12. It's 12. So.
I was like, there's
plus
no
4.
way you just hit for 16.
Plus
yeah, you
4
should just
plus
roll
4.
one die and then
Oh,
double
right.
everything.
Okay. So yeah. So what is that? 16, 22, 20.
20?
Yes.
So as you stride forward up this one to strike the nail in you, as its gaze bores through you, you walk up and with a single swing just smash it down onto the ground. The spectral spine in the mist dissipating and crumpling as the helmet just punk, 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 and just rolls across the ground.
That
a
was
lot like-
gratifying.
This is a lot like skeeting if you're up close. And then I will raise my shield again.
All right, brings us back around to Rur.
I'm going to need to borrow that D6 again. So, I'm going to move forward across the room to the adjacent corner to make room for my allies to come in if they want to.
Okay.
And seeing the one that got plinked a couple times by Esvis, I'm going to call forth a sparkle of Sarenrae's blessing and cast Disrupt Undead once again.
Give him the sparkle. Give him the old razzle dazzle. He's gonna fail. I guess it. I don't think a floating helmet really has a
For
gender.
almost max damage. That's 15.
And with that, this helmet too crumples in, loses its glow, and just collapses onto the ground inert, leaving only one left. Tyrannus is gonna do his best. He took out one of them, but it's time to take the top of the leaderboard here. As he brings his halberd together, seeing how quickly these are just being dropped before the group of you, for one mighty blow, which is going to connect. He doesn't even, they're small enough, and they seem to be brittle and weak enough. He doesn't even really use the blade so much as he turns the halberd and just uses it as a massive bat to just try to smash this helmet down into the ground.
Also known as the haft.
Not the haft, like the flat of the
flat
blade.
of the blade.
itself.
Oh, the flat of the blade.
He's using like a giant spatula.
Big
Yeah,
old
he's-
mallet.
Fun.
He's fly swatting. Okay, so 7, 8, 11 damage to that thing. And we're gonna
Do it.
live the dream
Do it, T.
of managing after all that commitment a follow-up hit. Not gonna happen.
Oh.
Oh, you
Darn.
could use a hero point.
No.
Tried.
I'm just gonna slide up to take position on the other side of the counter here. While Tyrannus's blows have made it a little wobbly, I'm gonna bring that geese arm up, just try to slice it up from the bottom. And that's going to be a 27.
27's gonna crit.
That's a total of 14 damage.
And with 14 damage, as you smite the last of these possessed helmets, Dalrin, what do you do?
Oh, it's a simple sweep up. The underhook catches it, slams it into the ceiling of the crypt, and but all of the abuse it's taken from Tyrannus and this hit is too much for it. The helmet actually breaks from its brittle construction into parts and kind of falls down. King, 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 and the mist just kind of.
He smashes it into
vanishes
the
up.
ground, it kind of bounces up, and you smash it up into the ceiling.
I finished that hit for you, don't worry.
Got him! But with that,
Good hits, sir. Good hits.
the crypt again falls silent, and Tyrannus kind of grimaces. What was that all? What even are these? This is not...
I guess they put the better guards in the front row.
No, I think I accidentally triggered them.
Well, this is not something that wards would do. They would have raised those that were interred here directly. These possessed helmets are... This should not be here.
Ooh, maybe Vaz, this is some of Vaz's necromancy. Maybe she raised them and sent them here to slow us down.
Oh, it's
Well,
unlikely. She
That's a
wouldn't-
lot of accusing over there, I'd say. She didn't.
With all the non-standard things about this particular fortress, it wouldn't be surprised if these are just another non-standard feature that was included.
Tyrannus, what are the station of the people interred here?
These were the soldiers. Not the highest ranking, but those that had served in a martial capacity. Those that had fought for the Order of the Nail. These were not the clerics and the secretaries, but those who were out on the front line enacting the will of the Order.
But Tyrannus, correct me if I'm wrong, and granted, this is not my area of expertise, but it seemed like the Hellknight skeletons out there displayed some sort of strategy. They took a formation and they had a leader. These seemed to be completely amalgamous. They didn't have any leader. They simply acted on their own will and not particularly intelligently.
Well,
Well,
they
to
were,
be fair, we didn't give them much of a chance.
Yes, they were smited quite quickly. They were not particularly hardy creatures, whatever they were.
they also, were, floating skeleton heads with, spines the length of
Spectres,
the
as
room.
far as I
and-
could tell.
Could
These...
a spell do this?
It's
Oh,
entirely
what I know.
possible.
No, I'm thinking to myself, could a spell do this? And if so, what would it be?
Well, I mean, a spell can really... Magic can do anything, it turns
Right,
out, but...
But necromancy of the level that I think Vaz could cast.
Okay, if you want to start recalling knowledge, make me an Arcana check.
Can I make one as well?
Yeah, you can make me one too, because you're already recalling knowledge.
That is
Would
going
it be
to
Arcana?
be
Arcana,
a
yeah, 'cause that's-
23.
Never mind.
With a 23, it's certainly possible, but these weren't. Like, this isn't something like what happened in the entry hall. These aren't raised corpses. These aren't just skeletons who have been animated to stand back up and fight. These were specters. These are phantasms of some kind. While they could be created via a spell, it's much more likely that they formed organically. Most creatures, most incorporeal undead, rise because of something preventing them from resting properly, some latent emotion, or it could be magical energy or something that corrupts them and allows them to take on the spectral form. And while these seem to have had to be possessed helmets, so they weren't fully specters, they weren't fully incorporeal creatures, it's really difficult to determine how these were generated, but it does seem more likely that they were not created intentionally by magic.
But they could have been created unintentionally if something disturbed them.
They definitely could have.
So, it is unlikely, now that I think on it, that these things would have been created by intentional magic, but it's distinctly possible that something Vaz did unintentionally disturbed them. Generally,
Vaz didn't get past the room outside.
that we know of. She's had days, she's had a week down here without us.
Well,
But there's no evidence she came back. She certainly didn't come back through the passageway.
Besides-
they would have noticed. Zuri would have noticed.
So
and
it
she didn't.
certainly would have, and you had been spending much of your time in the pigs there after she closed it down.
But she
I-
could have gone in the normal way, the way we went.
The
back
secret door in the middle of the mountains? How would she even know of it?
I don't know.
Well, wasn't she a friend of yours? You seem awfully quick to throw her under the bus. As far as we know, she's only been casting one spell, and it was only to talk to someone. I don't know. She could be mourning or something. I feel bad just throwing her like she's some kind of demon witch or something.
I don't think there's any evidence that she's any kind of criminal. I have to agree with Buford here. I mean, her writings mark her as a poor researcher, but aside from that, I don't think she has broken any laws.
Poor research is a crime as far as Dalharan's concerned.
Certainly worth calling out. I'm going to stern talk with her when I meet up with her.
I
I do not know this woman, but she seems to have gone to surprising amounts of effort to investigate these crypts, to cast her rituals, to seek out whatever it was she is after.
She could have just done this by accident. I'm not saying she had any foul intent.
Possibly. Is there anything in the alcoves that might indicate that these things were disturbed? Any grave goods that look out of place or look like they've been moved?
You can make me a perception check, Mr. Seeker. Well, if you want to return to detecting magic, you would absolutely detect magic in the ossuary.
Will you take a look at this effect to see if you can determine anything further about it, aside from the fact that it's clearly necromancy?
Sure.
Well, you detect magic in the ossuary, which is completely full of things.
Yeah.
Little trinkets and carvings and bits of
On the
jewelry
on the
everywhere
skull,
left for
please.
everything.
Well, we have the hallway. We would have the ability to at least cut it down to sections.
You could kind of science it out with the edge of that, but it's not like I cast detect magic. No magic? Magic. No magic? Magic. Okay, it's right there. Like it kind of just fades.
You get
out
like
of
a
it.
rough area.
You could get the ossuary is large enough. You could cut it into halves, surely.
But
What
he has
about this?
Redora.
What if we take Buford's
Right, we
shield,
have to
right,
take
and we
individual
hold it
items.
in front of you while you cast it? Because if we're blocking part of the room,
Yes.
I'm okay
we
with
could
this.
narrow it down that way.
What if I put this between two rhinos, I can actually only see your character, so there are no other closer visible targets.
That's Warhammer, baby.
So I can shoot your character with my rocket launcher. Like,
I was actually thinking we could specifically target one of the helmets to see if there was any magic specifically on it.
with Read Aura, you actually would not read any magic on the helmets whatsoever. They appear to have now become entirely inert and mundane from whatever had possessed them previously. But you would also know that undead are not inherently magical, and even were these latent spirits still present in the helmet, they may not read to your cantrip.
Perhaps they can find guidance on the path, and if not, I'll meet them there.
I sure am glad we came down here as Fisties. I don't know how long these souls have been trapped down here, but I don't suppose any of the Hell Knights were like horrible people, and they just been trapped down here for a while.
I'm sure there are perfectly reasonable people that turned into disembodied specter heads and made demon-possessed murder puppets. And
If there's anything that I've learned for my travels, is that my observations is that most beings are more stupid than they are malicious.
It's just kind of.
well, that seems much nicer characterization.
I think he may have been pertaining towards the individuals interfering with the crypt.
I understand, but. So I have no idea what has taken place in the Citadel or what its original purpose was. I place my faith in the Order of the Nail to have had a purpose and to have designed this in a way that was useful. And if whatever these creatures were, whatever these animated helmets have risen up against us, it was either intended through perhaps some older style of Vord, or as a side effect of Voz's or someone else's tampering. I doubt something like this would have simply happened on its own. Though admittedly, I know nothing of magic.
Well, perhaps we can find something that might shed some light or at least be useful. Is there...
Rur. The Citadel itself has fallen largely into disrepair. Many of the walls have been beaten through, even leaving gaping holes to the outside. As stone decays, would magic do the same if left unattended?
That would depend more upon the nature of the magic itself. For instance, a ward placed on a solid object, if that object decays, the ward would no longer be effective.
Right. I know that we have, by and large, stopped using these types of wards, these necromantic triggers, these animators. I know not the reason, I am not a signifier, but it is possible that side effects such as this could be part of the reason.
It's
There's
also
no way to predict how it would decay.
it's also possible that whatever this is, it was natural, and there was something that these men in particular had regrets about in life, which meant that they couldn't pass on for some reason. These things are known to happen, just incidentally, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that these men might have done something they sincerely regretted.
The life of a Hell Knight is not an easy one, that much is certain.
For certain.
They
Very
did
well.
recognize you, at least.
I did notice it did not seem to attack me.
I suppose we can do nothing but continue on and see what else we find.
Agreed.
Indeed.
Well, for the sake of checking, because Detect Magic went off for this general area, is there any object lying about that looks particularly pristine or unaffected?
Why don't Dalrin make me a perception check and look around?
Ah, die, you have failed me for the last time. That's going to be a 12.
Da-da-dum.
With a 12, there are just so many things in here scattered throughout the room that have been left that nothing in particular really stands out to you as different from all the rest of the small little odds and ends.
I had a session reroll.
Oh god, it got up and walked away.
It's gone. So, with that, we proceed.
Yes.
Very good.
And as you pass through the ossuary here, you are still detecting magic all the way through. The ossuary itself is quite a long chamber, near 60, 70 feet across, much wider than the radius to detect magic. So the fact that you detect magic on one side and are still detecting magic on the other would imply that either there is a large aura hanging over the whole room, or there are multiple points of magic spread throughout the chamber. But again, it's just so big that trying to go through and read all these various little items would take some time. Time you could certainly do.
I'm thinking later.
Well, that leads me to an interesting question.
Okay.
If there's just a general overlying aura in the room, and I cast Read Aura, like using the wall.
You would, yeah, like what you did with the necromantic aura. You
Yeah.
can read an aura itself. There is nothing hanging over the ossuary. There is no greater aura, so it must be multiple points of magic spread throughout the room. So as the group of you continue, you would very shortly find yourselves back in the front entryway, where you would first encounter the skeletal Hell Knights.
Well, I think we have another door here on. Oh no! Once we go back,
It
you want to
looks
head
like
back
it.
to the main entrance?
Well, there was that third hallway off the
Hallway,
main
yeah.
entrance we need to go back to just to complete our route. But there also appears to be a door right here off this
Oh,
way.
right.
Where does this
That
go?
was where you came in.
What? No,
No, it's
No,
not.
no. The other
Oh,
one.
there's actually a
Oh.
door going from.
Oh yeah, there is a small door
That
that leads
seems-
from the ossuary directly to the sepulchre.
That seems extremely redundant.
odd. Yeah.
You could also
there's-
just walk 5 feet around it, but that is a
I don't wish to walk 5 feet. Put it off.
efficiency. I am going that way. I'm not walking around.
Pulled a buddy just right through the wall. They had to put a door in.
That's
It is-
exactly what happened.
There's
One
a
of your
giant
ancestors.
archway and just a door next to it. So I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of foot traffic in this particular crypt. They had like a fire exit. Like I don't know. I am largely unclear on why that door is there. You know, does
right.
not lead anywhere of value.
Well, I mean, if there's something in that ossuary, we may want to go and investigate more thoroughly. But in the meantime, do you want to check out that third passageway?
Sure do.
For the
Very good.
sake of checking everything, we might as well.
You could head up through this middle door here. I am never going to
I
tire of
love-
Arkin Forge's
yep.
ability for me to actually swing
Open
doors
doors.
open in real time and see the line of sight update. It's so cool. It's so cool.
And we're gone.
I know. I'm on the
And then the
Everything is
heroes.
darkness. You end up here, down this third of the branches, because this entryway to the vaults as a whole had almost spider-like hallways branching off to either side, and this is the termination of the only one you haven't explored. What's interesting is that it doesn't end in a door, but just a wall.
A wall at the end of a hallway where every other hallway just like it has doors.
Indeed.
I strongly
This
suspect.
is certainly an odd situation, so why don't you roll me a perception?
Yes, I am so
boy.
suspicious. Yeah,
Ooh,
that's a
nat
natural
20.
20 goes to a 27.
With a natural 20, you walk up to this, but his buddy kind of gets up to it and realizes there's just a wall here. Dalrin just reaches past him, flips the small handle hidden on the side.
It's like the worst concealed secret door I've ever seen in my
It's
life.
pretty concealed. Dalrin's just like so suspicious of this that he's like, this is obviously a door. Looks to where a handle would be, just reaches over and grabs it. Because it is DC 20. It's actually really hidden. But you just hone in on this specifically. Something about the light emanating from your Gusarm just
No,
catches
it's on his glove.
or on your gauntlet.
That's how he saw the handle.
Oh, that's what you reach forward and just see the handle. It's just literally your actual hand illuminates it.
His scholarly disdain was so.
The shadow gave away the handle.
But also with that critical success, you can hear a sound coming from the other side of the door that you have not heard in some time in these vaults. A soft croaking.
Not more frogs. It sounds like there may be more of our tropical friends on the other side of this. We should probably get ready for a hostile welcome.
Well, I'd better get my well, I
I'd
guess.
be curious how it found its way in there, but it couldn't find its way out through the other secret door.
That's true.
Maybe they're breeding down here.
Well, let's. Well, you have a
Maybe-
good
Maybe the
point.
fact that this is a door is more obvious than the door in the middle of a random hallway. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
like,
it's
surely this
distinctly
needs somewhere. Just whack it with your dumb little frog hands. And something opens. Like,
Dumb little frog hands. All right.
They have lobster claws
Maybe he
for
found his
hands.
way in and can't find his way out.
help!
River.
Damn it! Help! I am less stuck.
They're so
Regardless.
derpy and evil.
You know when you're bored and you're sitting there with the ball and you throw it, bounce it off the wall, and it comes back to you? He's doing that with his tongue, just.
Maybe that's how they found the secret handle.
Every 20th time he rolls a 1 and he pokes himself in the eye.
Dang it, Franklin! Go bounce your tongue somewhere else. We sleep here. Fine. Let's clear. Oh.
I don't know why that got us so bad. All
We
right.
have fun here.
Franklin's a
We have fun,
special
man.
individual.
Franklin tries really hard.
All
He
right.
does.
Well, at any rate, it may be quite claustrophobic in there. I'd suggest we prepare to storm in to make room for our compatriots in the back and take the room by storm. We've fought these before.
Well, don't. We got quite an effect out of them once you started speaking your like snarling language. I think it may work out real well if we try that again.
Oh, to try to talk. Oh, goodness gracious. But the Breach Hill jail is terribly insecure, it would seem.
Well, it was only insecure because one of the guards got like sucked dry from like his whole life source.
Yeah, well, murdered, yes. Yes, the guard was murdered.
Are we doing phrasing? No? Okay. Carry on.
Oh, yes, very well. We'll see if we can't talk them down.
Yeah, I agree with this.
So, Buford opens the door. So, as you do, and the group of you head inside here to get a better view of this area, you can see this opens into a similar kind of sepulcher, where there are much less graves. It's not packed full like the ossuary at a central hall. It's more like the sepulcher you'd entered from originally. There are 6 raised daises stretching across the center of this room, each with a massive stone coffin, almost a sarcophagus, standing upright on them, with their cover engraved with a full body art of a Hellknight bearing arms and armor.
Wow.
As you come in the room and the light from Dalryn lets you see the first couple of them, you can see that there are even minor variations. These are individualized. It's not even just the Hellknight. It's very possible this is the personal arms and armor of the people within. They're not all halberds. The first you can see bears a halberd, and the second a morning star. The completely different, unique weapons. You can also see the cover of the second one is tilted towards you a little bit, as that coffin is open. And directly in front of you, you can see your frog buddy.
Hey!
Which, thanks to Paizo, I have the actual Pathfinder Bestiary box now, so instead of us using the Bestiary box 3 I got at PaizoCon for weird surrogates, this is the actual Boggart Warrior. So
Hi, Franklin.
you can put Franklin there on his little token.
What about-
And Franklin's kind of hunched over, armored up very similarly to how the other Boggart Warriors have been. But they all stood fairly tall. He's kind of like hunched against this back wall, almost swaying a little bit back and forth. And as you enter the room and look around, this light kind of hits him, and you see this Boggart just awkwardly standing, not even in the corner, just like head almost against the other wall. Slowly kind of turns his head towards the group. As he does, you can see that the entire side of his face has been ripped off,
Huh.
just leaving largely bare bones and bits of muscle underneath. He turns around, you can see an equally large rip across the armor bound around his chest, where he's been nearly disemboweled, torn open by some kind of claws. As he looks at you, sort of swaying, you hear from the darkness to your left, Buford, a rattling voice of some sort, a roar. Just and at that, the frog reaches up and staggers towards you, claws outstretched. Franklin didn't meet a particularly good ending. So,
Poor
I'm going to need some
Franklin.
initiatives.
Do we get +1?
Yes, I'm
You
scouting.
do have this focus. Franklin's mad. And you hear several more of these voices echoing out from the darkness beyond. Esvis!
18.
You sound so sad about that.
I am.
Buddy.
28.
Whoa! Look at that! That is some initiative, Dalrin.
I got a 9. Because I'm trying to shout at Draconic in this thing.
I'll
and
put you. You're mentally brushing up on your draconic while this zombified
What should
frog.
I
turns
say to
around.
him to try to talk him down? Oh god, he's a
Resume.
zombie.
23.
Oh god, this is. Oh lord, that's not what I wanted. A roar.
29.
dropping the mic.
So, your friend here, Franklin. Oh, I also have these really cool bestiary cards. So I can put some stuff up here. Yeah, Franklin, Boggard Warrior. He's gonna live right there, so I can see some of his stats.
There you go.
Don't worry about this yet.
Everybody has a friend.
worry
So we're
about
gonna put
this
something
yet.
else right next to him.
Don't worry about that yet. Okay, so let me double check one thing, because Franklin's not feeling great.
You don't
He's-
say.
He's half the frog he used to be.
Franklin's not feeling fantastic, but that does not actually affect his initiative. Okie dokie. Resume had
24.
24. Frog. Gonna be just after you.
23?
You got 22, so whether it was a 24 or
Oh,
23 doesn't
okay.
matter. You're ahead of him regardless. And then we're gonna have.
You said 23.
It was 23.
Plus scouting, it might have been 24.
Ah, yes, thank you.
One of them up here.
And just to be clear, that's 1, not 2.
There's one. Yeah, I'm just the individuals again. This isn't a huge horde.
Right, thank God.
It sounds like there's a pair of them off in the darkness that you can hear. So, Rur.
Tyrannus.
I don't want to roll Tyrannus' initials. It's going to be sad.
17.
Is that what you rolled?
17.
Hey, wow.
I'm good at what I do.
So you just have to say 20 before you roll dice. That's all
Okay.
you have to do. It's actually really easy. Just say 20
It's easy. You just kill the Batman.
You just kill the
and
Batman.
then
That's
roll,
it.
What do you do?
Kill the Batman.
and then you'll be good. Tyrannus also pretty up here in initiative. Tyrannus having a good day. Tyrannus is having a great afternoon.
He finally
Slaying
realized
his former
that,
friends.
that he could do this.
All right, Rur.
So what do I know about
So
zombies?
give me plus 7? 9?
Well, 9.
9 on your religion? Yeah. Well, clearly, this boggard here has been raised as some kind of undead. He looks like a zombie. He seems incredibly slow and clumsy in his undeath, much weaker than a standard boggard warrior would be. But without being able to see any more, like, it's kind of hard to tell from something that's already been turned into an undead spawn what caused it without seeing the source.
So I just know he's an undead.
He is a zombie, yes. He's a slow
He's
zombie.
slow and he's
He's
a zombie.
not as fast as a regular boggard warrior.
Well, you know what we do to undead around here?
Is it smite them out?
I think you disrupt them.
You disrupt their chakras. I don't know. You roll a fort save for me, please.
Okie dokie. So, his fort is unaffected. And he is going to succeed.
DC 19. He takes 5 damage.
Alrighty. I'm actually going to have to track for these because they have more than a tiny fart of hell. At least he has one action left.
Can I ready a meta magic?
You cannot ready without 2 actions.
Yeah.
So then I guess that brings us to
I'll
Buddy.
draw my scimitar,
Okay.
just in case.
Just in case. You gotta bring Saren Ray's holy beatdown to somebody. Buddy, you're in the front
Okay,
here. Shield
I
up.
can only see the one. I can hear all this spooky business going on the right, left side. So I'm gonna run around and have my warhammer ready to just kind of bring this man,
To the frog or to the other side of the...
to the frog because I can't
Okay.
see anything else.
Yeah,
I also don't want to go running blindly into the dark.
that's fair.
So
That's probably a good idea.
It does lead to very amusing things, though.
that's true. That's true.
Slide whistles.
So I'm gonna roll. Oh,
Hey.
19 on the day. So 29.
29 will critically hit.
Nice.
Okay, so just one of these guys. With a 9 times 2 is 18.
All right, so you come around and smash Franklin for 18 damage. And in his undeath, He does not seem to have any kind of resistance to being just bashed with a freaking mallet. And that's a pretty solid hit, but he's still just as large and bulky as the buggards you'd fought before. And he now does not seem to experience pain at all. So you come around and smash this warhammer into him, you hear it just crunch through his ribs, just crushing right through the bone like it's nothing. And he just staggers a bit from the actual impact, but does not react any further.
I'll be like, it's a damn shame about all these undead. You know, a peaceful walk into the afterlife is all one could hope for, and I'll raise my shield.
All right. Tyrannus finally wins, and the light in front of him is stuck. And also going last.
He can shove me.
I think you
Get
can
in the
buy.
room.
He's literally going to shove you.
All
He's going to
right.
shove you into the room. What's your fort?
It's 18 if he wants to try to crack it.
He fails.
Ah.
You
He's going
can't.
to fail.
You can't accept being shoved by an ally, can you?
He's still got to do the roll, because it's just he hasn't reacted yet. He doesn't know what's happening.
Gotcha.
As he tries to push you into the room, and you just kind of plant your feet as you're focusing on his Draconic and hearing zombie sounds, and you're very overwhelmed. He's just gonna call out, Dalrin, forward, into the room! And ready to move when the way is clear.
Right.
So,
Past present tense, past perfect tense. He used to be alive.
you are gonna hear some shuffling in the darkness here. And Buford, pretty sure one of them is not far out of view ahead of you, coming towards you and the boggart. But you can't see it yet. You just hear dragging feet and clanking chainmail.
Creepy stuff.
Resume. Creepy stuff.
Can I see the boggart?
Yeah. From where you were, yeah, you can see the boggart.
Okay. Well, that thing is clearly not alive anymore. Time to make it not alive again. And she will once again call up Disrupt Undead.
Alrighty. He is going to make his fort save. He is going to fail. Disrupt Undead's getting crazy value today. They're feeling very disrupted.
Whoa!
Yes!
Maximum.
That's gonna be 16.
Okay. He has been disrupted.
Oh no,
And,
I was hoping he would be a good meatball.
With that, Franklin is just going to collapse.
Crumble to dust.
And he'll be stepping in after
Crumble to a meaty goose.
Oh, I see. He was waiting.
You've been struck by a smooth
So that leaves
sorcerer.
you with an action. You're sort of still stuck in this hallway.
That is what shield is all about.
Oh, that's fair. Throw up a shield. So,
I'm just in this room all by
with your
myself.
with your frog having collapsed, you see another fully formed undead. Its skin dark and tight, where it's been drawn across the bone from ages of just wasting away, and an unnatural burning glow coming out from its mouth, its nose, its eyes, everywhere in its head, kind of similar to what the floating helmets had did. And as this corpse shambles towards you, it starts to increase in speed. It's kitted out in full Hellknight plate, with a halberd strapped across its back. But it seems to show no interest in using or wielding the halberd as it lunges forward with its claws out and getting closer and faster as it sort of seems to grow in intensity as it senses life near in front of it. By the time it's reached you, it is lashing out in a fury. What is your aim?
22.
That is going to be a villain point.
Oh, villain point.
Down to 3.
Oh my god. So many.
Down to 3. Shall wants to see bad stuff happen to you. All right, that is going to be a 30. So that does not crit you, but it is going to hit.
Ouchies.
And as this undead slashes through you, with impressive strength, its claws finding the weakness in your full plate as it just collides and scrabbles against you.
I would lean into whatever. As the claw connects, I would kind of lean into it with my shield.
And with this shield still in front of you, you're able to keep the zombie itself off of you. It can't get as close, so it can't get near as much purchase. You can shield block, I assume. All right, so it is going to deal 9 damage.
Okay.
So you're going to take 4, right?
Yeah.
You and the shield will both take 4. And as it rips at you, you see its ferocity only increase. This hissing growl gets louder as it swings. It's seeming to draw more vigor out of you as it draws blood, getting stronger and more furious.
Okay.
I also need you to make me a fortitude save.
Okay.
I figure now's a good lull. What do I know about this one?
I'll give you that in a second.
Yeah.
Well, the battle started.
I'm
now.
just-
You get a knowledge check.
Oh,
at the start of the
I thought it
fight.
was each enemy. Each like.
Well, now
different
now
type.
we're going. So you can.
That would be 23.
With a 23, you feel not pain, but almost just like a deadening around where it rips at you with its claws. But again, Buddy is a very sturdy man, and he is just going to keep swinging. He is not big on the smart.
He's throwing a specter tantrum.
But with your shield up, keeping the body of the creature away from you as well as you are in your full plate, is not able to do any further damage as it attempts to rip and tear. Esvis.
Can I even see it from where I am in the way back?
Resme could see the boggart in the same position.
I'm going to give it cover.
It's like on top of Buddy.
Yeah, it's trying to like hug Buddy real tight.
That's
so
fine.
it's got cover
That's fine.
from where you are, but also you can see it.
I will hunt prey. And then I will hunter's aim.
Now it doesn't have cover.
No, it doesn't have cover.
Ranger powers activate.
Now you ski it.
24.
24 will hit.
For 8 damage.
Ooh, that's pretty good. So as he's attacking you, buddy, you see this arrow fly out from the hallway and strike it, and just kind of thudding into this thing's dead flesh. It doesn't appear to react or acknowledge it literally at all. It's still just clawing at you. There is also now an arrow stuck in its side.
And that's all my actions.
And a second one comes crawling forth from the darkness.
Don't like it.
Into the doorway in front of Dalren.
Oh, goodness gracious.
What's your AC? Welcome back.
AC is 20.
I don't like that thing. No, sir.
His claw is going to connect with you as well as it comes around the corner towards the source of the light here, just scrabbling and reaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to hit you for 6. And similarly, you're going to see it invigorate as it draws blood, seeming to gain power as you feel this numbness kind of rack through you. Make me a fortitude save.
That's going to be a natural 20 for a 28.
Solid. So you also, we got 2. So we have the Hardy Boys in the front here.
You have a reason.
The barbarian, the champion here, which are doing a good job of holding off this deadening that they're trying to spread through your body. And he's going to swing again. Oh, I really want to film him like that. No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
No, you should definitely villain point
I'll
the
save
second
it.
iterative.
I'll save them for later. Dalren.
So I'm getting hit by this thing, and surprisingly enough, the numbing kind of sets in and just takes away the pain of the wounds. So Dalren immediately just kind of loses all respect for these things, because they clearly can't. He doesn't feel any pain from their attacks. So the contempt's going to rise up in him, and he's just going to go Dragon Rage, crackle around him.
Take them off, well.
That's Dragon Rage! That's what we're looking for.
That's it.
The monocle comes off as the lightning surges around.
And do a quick upswing with that geese arm. Back away from me, trash. That's going to be a 28.
28 is going to critically hit. Be gone, trash!
I'm sorry, I'm not rolling 2 dice, just 1. Okay, so that's plus Dragon Rage, 15 times 2, 30 damage.
All right. unlike the skeletons, these corpses have enough to them that he does not seem to in any way be resistant to your electricity. He's got plenty to be surged through, especially because he is also kitted out in full a lighter Hellknight plate, almost like a chainmail with a light coif on over the top, but a huge greatsword slung across his back as he swings at you. And this lightning racks through the whole thing, knocking him off balance and actually blasting him back a couple steps into the room.
Okay. Seemed promising. The second attack, let's see. Actually, what I'm going to do, can I push past him?
I know there's a way you can do that in second
Well, didn't he
edition.
get shoved back in
He
the
didn't
room
get
a
shoved
little?
out of
Just
the
a couple-
square.
just
He
a couple
was, like,
steps.
staggered back.
It's
Flavor.
acrobatics to
Yeah, acrobatics to
through.
move past him, athletics to shove him.
Okay. I can try to gain the use the momentum
Yeah,
from the
tumble
attack
through is
to
acrobatics.
to swing past him and around without trying. Will that negate attacks of opportunity too? In second edition?
I don't believe it does. No.
Don't
I think
believe it
you
does.
still take it.
It's much simpler because it's still an action with a move trait, so you'd still get an attack of opportunity if you had it. Because it's pretty just like if you take a move trait act. The only thing that ignores it is things that specifically say they don't trigger reactions, which is pretty much just step or
Gotcha.
class features. So yeah, tumbling through does still tumbling through or shoving. Are you trying to tumble through?
I would try to tumble through. I want to get on the other side of him so that Tyrannus and I can flank him.
Okay. I can look real quick because we're trying to learn, and I'm sure this will come up before. But I'm going to say it's still provoke.
Okay. Well, clearly his attacks seem to have no effect on me, so I'm fine. I'll just try to tumble
This
past
garbage.
him. So I'm just going to use the force of my attack to lever past him and step behind him.
Okay.
Acrobatics.
Yep.
That's a 19.
19 is going to succeed.
All right. I'll push past him and just end on the other side.
So it's going to trigger Tyrannus is going to take his reaction to move forward. Although all he can really do is step once.
Fair enough. And I'm out of actions.
All right, and then that brings us back around to Roar at the top here, as you now see this undead Hellknight corpse swinging at Dalred and Dalred just flip right past.
So, I saw a couple of my buddies take a hit there. They don't look too serious, but I do happen to see a couple of undead individuals.
Excuse me, sir.
So let me conveniently smooth out the numbers here.
Saren. Right.
So a couple of fort saves, I believe. No, it's
Will?
for channel.
For channel?
Oh, you're doing the AoE.
Yeah,
Yes, that is.
I'm using the 3-action AOE heal.
Okie dokie. Yeah, that is in fact will saves. So I have the one closest to you is going to succeed. The one furthest away, just barely in the emanation, is also going to succeed. So they're both going to take half.
5, so they take 2.
So they'll each take 2 damage, and anyone who has any damage will heal for 2.
Oh,
Fair.
two, wait, I thought
No,
we
you
healed
heal for 5.
Oh, you have 5, sorry.
Yeah.
They take half, you take the full. This was just level 1 heal. Or was that just a really bad roll?
That's level 2 bad roll.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's one of my automatic.
Alright, your auto ones are automatically heightened now.
Yep.
Level 3 things. So as this wave of energy comes out from Rare Buddy, you're up.
Okay, I'm going to try and get my shield kind of to bash him back a little bit so that I can swing my hammer up, and I'll just take a swing here.
Hey.
Okay, so that is a 26.
26 will hit.
Oh my gosh, that was terrible. So that is a 5 for 5 damage.
Okay.
And then I am going to step back a little bit and try and brace myself again and raise my shield.
Back to back in the corner. We're ready and up. And that will bring us to Tyrannus from his new flanking position here.
He likes it.
As he is seeing what were most certainly interred Hell Knights, but what now appear to just be mindless undead. This is certainly not what the words were supposed to make. He steels himself for a moment again before, almost infuriated, bringing down the halberd with as much power as he can muster, and he is going to critically hit with the flat-footed This is the one that you crit. You crit push past, and Tyrannus just steps up and baseballs the thing. And he is going to hit it for... It's a 9. It's a 13. 17 times 2, 34.
Woo!
As he brings his halberd straight down through, cleaving this Hell Knight, armor and all, completely in half. As the two separate sides of this zombie just collapse into a heap on the ground. 1 crit, 2 crit.
You hit,
Trash.
I hit.
And he is going to move a little further into the room on the side of the door. Resme.
I'm not sure if Resme can see that guy in the
Yeah,
back,
I was
to
in the
be
same
fair.
place.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
same
in the
place
same
where the
place.
boggart was.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say you saw him
Yeah,
last time.
it's cover from you in
It's
essence,
cover,
but
but
you can
that's-
see him. But if you disrupt undeading,
I mean,
cover
I'm
doesn't
just
matter.
disrupt undeading,
Yeah,
so
so-
it doesn't really matter.
Cover irrelevant. All right, now this one has just been whacked with a hammer once and has taken an arrow. He is going to critically succeed. on
So he
his-
doesn't take any
his
damage.
saving
Nothing
throw.
happened.
But nothing is going to happen to him.
That's cool. Should be like, wait, it's broken.
What happened?
But then this creature is going to stumble forward, following up Buford as he retreats, swinging still with just undead fervor. Another 30. He's going to connect. I'll just roll them both because he's just swinging again. He's just going in. He's got no interest in doing anything else. He's going to hit you and hit you again. As you're pushed back into the corner and no longer have any room to work with here as he presses the assault, he just piles in on you. So,
Again, I'll kind of try and lean into the shield a bit.
you block on the first one.
Yeah.
The first one is going to do 10 damage.
Okay.
So you
5
and the
each.
shield are each going to take 5. And the second one is going to do 9 damage, which you are just going to take entirely.
Okay.
And as he rips through you, the vigor racking through him as he just growls louder and louder. It isn't physically stitching up his wounds or anything. He's not healing. But he seems to be draining energy away from Buford. That is fueling him to fight further and harder and at least allowing him to ignore a lot of the damage that he has taken as he just continues pressing this attack, almost physically swelling up inside his armor, bulging as he lands these strikes. And then I need a fortitude save from you.
Alright. Fortitude save. That would be a 16. No, 18. 18.
All right, that's the first strike, and I need the second fortitude
All right.
save.
There's 2 of them. Ah, my goodness. That is a 21. No, 23. I keep on getting it backwards. 23.
Buford will have none of these shenanigans. You can feel this growing deadness. You can feel that he's sapping away your essence here. But still, you hold strong, and you aren't letting it... You were, almost through sheer force of will, ignoring just as he is. 2 absolute bullheaded idiots wailing on each other, determined to not show any sign of pain. Espis.
Still my prey.
As
So
he moves cover, I'd say he's down to lesser cover now, because it's just the people in the way now.
okay,
Because he's moved forward into a much clearer line of sight.
okay. I will. Okay then. I'll still first shot take the hunter's aim and ignore that lesser cover for him.
Okay.
20
20
armor
will
class.
hit.
Okay. For 2 points of damage,
Okay.
and then hunted shot. So he will still have the lesser cover for this. 20 again,
20 hits.
and 17.
17 will not hit. 17 will glance off of his breastplate as he is still wearing his full armor. But you'll land a second arrow into him as these are just flying down the hall now over Resme's shoulder.
Another 8 damage.
Another 8 damage. Solid.
You're drawing a long bow.
But as you were just sticking more and more arrows in this creature, as they're just sticking and Buford is backing up, flailing with his hammer. As he's literally just ripping energy out of Buford, he barely even seems to be slowing down from this damage.
That's all my actions.
Dalren.
Rules question: if someone is prone, do they still threaten their area?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I should remember. Marn did that when he flailed out. He was able to.
They do have, I believe, they're flat-footed. I think they may also take a penalty to their attack rolls, but it does not outright stop them from taking attacks opportunity and stuff.
This thing is building up way too much momentum, and frankly, it's insulting that it's pressing my friend so much.
This garbage.
Dalren's gonna push the geese arm out between its legs and just whip it up to trip it to send it splaying onto the floor.
All right. So athletics against its fort DC.
Athletics check is a 27.
27 will certainly knock it down.
Whap.
So as it kind of almost overcommits here, just flailing, throwing itself against Buford, you just knock its feet out. It just slumps down and face plants on the ground right in front of it.
Bring it up, finish, and just bring the head of it smash down onto it. Lightning explosion. -5, but flat-footed. Hey, that's 18.
18 hits.
Woo! That's 12 lightning damage.
All right.
You have been weighed, measured, and found wanting.
So,
I've got one more
Yeah,
action,
usually one
too,
action,
actually.
yep.
Yeah, I actually
That's
have one
only
more
two.
action. Yeah.
You still got a whole other go in there.
I'm going to, let's see, I can't conveniently step out of the way. I'm not afraid of this thing. It clearly is entirely inept. I'm just going to move past it and just kip up onto the crypts and just walk across the crypts and step behind it.
Okay.
His light seems particularly dark.
So moving over the crypts here, it's going to be difficult terrain
I've got the movement.
to get across. But yeah, you can kind of climb up behind these big sarcophagi.
I'm a nimble elf.
And get up behind him. And
5 feet further away though, if I could.
all right, reach weapons. Reach weapons gonna do reach weapon stuff. Boop.
I don't want it to get its dirty hands.
Please
on
do
me.
not touch me, peasant. Rare.
All right, it's on the ground. I guess we're gonna have a little fun with it. It's very obviously absorbing some life force, so we're gonna feed it some life force. I'm going to move forward to the doorway and just looking down at this pitiful undead abomination, channel a 2-action heal.
So, are you aware the 2-action heal does not get the +8?
We're not doing that. We're disrupting
you
undead.
do not get the +8 or the +16 if you are dealing damage. That is only if it is used to heal.
That is definitely going to be disrupt undead then.
He's gonna be disrupted. Laying on the floor, he succeeds, but he's relatively disrupted.
13, so 7
7 damage.
or 6.
Yeah, 6.
6. One more than that. So you've piled up a ton of damage in this thing, but it still shows no signs of stopping. Without being chunked down so quickly as the one the door frame that got just crit twice. The battle of attrition seems to be much more difficult to bring this thing down. And Buddy, that brings us back to you.
I am going to, again, raise my warhammer up and try and just smash this thing against
Now lay it
the
on the
floor.
ground.
And with a 22.
22 will definitely hit. Just pounding it. Just tenderizing the zombie laying on the floor.
For, that is 11 damage.
Okay.
And then...
Now you are, although it's consumed a ton of energy from you, and you can feel this necrotic kind of numbness still racking through where it's managed to deal damage to you, where it's like ramped through your shield with its claws. It's clearly experiencing no pain. It's not slowing. But just the amount of physical damage that you have done to this thing, you're actually beating it apart. As it lays there on the ground and you're just paddling it with your warhammer, and it's getting just destroyed by these ripples of positive energy, this disruption just racking through it. If you break it enough, it doesn't matter how much it doesn't care. And it is nearly broken.
Okay, well, I guess I'll roll. I'll try again, and hopefully. Ooh, I miss with a 3 on the die, which is a 13.
13 is going to miss.
And then
Probably an 8, but
what?
13 with a -5.
Oh, yeah.
like
mine's
it's probably,
fine.
you have to
Okay,
have a
yeah,
plus
yeah.
15 to hit normally.
Right. No. I have
8
plus
definitely
10.
misses.
We're not quite there.
Yeah.
Now, soon.
Soon.
Trademark.
And then, I guess I will. Okay, I guess I will just raise my shield again. I'm gonna just brace against the wall.
Lower your shield.
Lower your
Yeah.
shield. Or this thing flailing on the ground. So that brings us to Tyrannus. Things got cover from him here. Tyrannus is going to move around to get a little bit of a better angle. And then just try one massive downward cleaving swing. He cut the last one in two. He's gonna probably cut this one in two.
Nice.
As he deals 4, 6, 9 damage. But that will be enough to do it. With his blade just dropping down onto this creature on the ground. It already being damaged, his armor just being bludgeoned apart by the warhammer blows. The blade of the halberd and all the weight and force Tyrannus can get behind it, actually like almost inverting his grip to just slam it down with as much force as possible, not even so much aiming as he's laying flat on the ground. Just completely desiccates the creature. And with a last couple desperate scrabbles towards Buford's legs, the thing finally falls truly dead on the ground. No longer fighting.
I would brace into I'd be here against the wall, and I'd brace and kind of like hunker down, and just say a quiet prayer, and then you'd see kind of some of the like burnt, almost gray skin coming back and giving itself a little bit more light.
The thing was rather tenacious, wasn't it? Are you all right, buddy?
Those things are real unnatural. I don't know what those things were, but I hope we never meet one of those again.
Yeah, fragile's what they were.
What were they?
This is... Bastards! What is this? This should not be happening! These are mindless corpses!
Perhaps there's a reason they don't use those wards anymore.
And Tyrannus just seems like absolutely furious at this point. Like near just overwhelmed with blind rage here. Rur can tell they're clearly much stronger than a normal zombie. They're clearly capable of creating spawn. They seem like the progenitors of whatever had happened to your boy Franklin. But you don't know the specifics exactly of what they are. I mean, your cloistered upbringing was not a whole lot of studying various types of undead necessarily. You're not positive what these are. Clearly, though, they were able to use their negative energy, their necrotic power, to siphon life from living flesh. And eventually, based on Franklin, at some point, that wraps around into reanimation, replacing their life force with negative energy entirely.
Interesting.
Which is a horrifying concept, really.
Yeah, and I'll of course explain while not knowing the specifics of what they are, what I do know. So everybody knows that there might be more of these around now.
I've seen similar things.
I've read about them, but I've never seen anything like this before.
Well, thankfully, it appears that not quite all of the knights in this crypt have animated this way.
But what could even cause this? This is no work of the wards. These are unintelligent. They have no knowledge, no tactics. They did not even wield their weapons on their backs. These are perversion.
I told you, something has disturbed them and done something to them, and I don't know who or what it is.
Perhaps the ring?
No. Tyrannus. This rage you're feeling for what they've done, whatever it is, let's not focus on the question of why. You're going to rack your brain trying to understand something bad, something dark. Just know that these right now, they're not your brothers anymore.
Sad say I'm not. And he steps up to the closest of the large sarcophagi here that are still closed, and drops it. Just kind of casts his halberd down next to him, and moves up, and with all the force he can muster, slams his shoulder and one hand into the sarcophagus, just forcing it off of the dais, where it slams down onto the ground with a massive burst of dust. Damn these creatures! Whatever they have become. It's this corruption, it's this infection. A perversion of everything we stood for, everything these crypts were meant to be.
Send them back to the path then. And we'll all put a stop to it.
Indeed. The Hell Knights long abandoned this place. Their guard stands for nothing anymore.
Everything here they have left behind, it is forsaken. And he bends over and picks up his halberd. Buford opens that casket. Like, points to the one that he's thrown on the ground next to you.
Any particular reason?
And as he gets his halberd back up, and just grips it with both hands. If you are going to be sure if you have done with this.
I think it's actually rather prudent.
It's a good enough
All right,
precaution.
then. If you guys think so.
I'd
You want me
rather
to
not
make
have
an-
more of those running around.
I can help too.
Want me to make an athletics check?
Make me an athletics check. They are sealed with a latch. So I mean, you could either pick the locks on the side or just try to, through brute strength, force the lids off.
These locks look old and brittle. We could probably just pick them open.
Okay.
Okay.
No point doing damage if we don't have to.
But, oh, okay.
No, you've had your fun for the moment. Be good.
Nick wants to break things.
Nick can't break anything.
I'm gonna walk to the other side of the room and try and open
How'd
one.
that work out for you?
I'm going to give my hero point that has apparently disappeared.
Your session reroll, you mean?
Yes.
Which is somewhere.
I have no clue where it is. There we go. 17.
With a 17, as you put your lockpicks into the side of this thing, and you just don't have the tools for this. This is a lock on a huge
Great.
stone casket.
I will.
Tiny little lockpicks are not going to be enough. Don't seem to be nearly enough to move the massive mechanism inside this huge ledge.
Oh, wow. This is a
I mean, that's what you
huge
could try.
mechanism.
I was gonna try as well.
Should have brought bigger picks.
I'm going to also spend a session reroll.
We are
The
guessing-
academics versus the meatheads.
I'm technically also an academic,
Yeah.
but I do like breaking things.
25.
With a 25, you got to use it a little bit differently. It's not the same kind of a technique that you would use for the Locket Vaz's house. But with enough force and leverage, you can actually just force the inner chamber of this lock to rotate with a massive grinding clank.
Use a Monty Python as a tension wrench.
Thank you.
And then you can slide
Oh, well done.
the top of the sarcophagus off and reveal inside what looks to be a fairly standard Hellknight, without a helmet, but a body left interred, looking very similar to the zombies you'd fought before, just with pure age, the skin drawn tight and dry.
We may need this again.
Inside is a breastplate increase, full armored with its halberd placed alongside next to it. And as soon as this lid gets off, Tyrannus steps forward, raises his halberd up, and just bashes the bottom of the halberd into the skull of the Hell Knight resting there. And just does it again and again, and just slams over and over, just destroying. I mean, this thing is a fragile old skeleton. The skull is obliterated at the first swing, and I
It's
mean,
now
it's been,
fragile old powder.
it's been here for so long. There's no blood or anything that skirts out. It's just an old congealed body. And as he just smashes it to pieces with the halberd again and again and again, and before he just loses himself with this blind fury, literally just lifting his leg up and just stamping on the corpse several more times into the armor left there in the casket, and just throws his halberd down on it.
I will walk over and put a hand on Tyrannus' shoulder.
Wait on that, there are more.
Next one, I suppose.
Well, now here, I don't know if we should continue. There are plenty
Vi.
of corpses
Leaves them to
throughout
this
this.
infection down here.
Well, I feel like we should try and figure out what's going on around here. There's got to be a reason for this.
Well, perhaps, but we haven't been able to find any sign. It could simply be that this is just what happens with these necromantic wards when you leave them alone for so long.
Tyrannus?
And the stone starts to crumble
So-
around them.
Well, when
No.
we first got in here, those two were open, right?
2 were open, right?
So
where the,
someone clearly
zombies
had
had come
been
forth.
messing around with them.
Well, they were messing around.
So
with
make
them.
me a perception check.
Sure.
Seeking guy, real quick.
Seeking guy.
Seeking guy.
Ooh,
Woo,
nat
nat
20.
That looks like a 20. See, I
27.
can read that 20 from here. With the natural 20s, you look at the second of these caskets that had opened. You can see scratching, scrabbling marks across the inside where it had been raked and then forced open from within. But as Tyrannus kind of loses himself here, and Roar and Resme are a bit back from this, you notice something change in the room. You see out of the corner of your eye, you turn to your left and look at the far end of the wall, where you can see what looks like a set of glowing runes, some kind of magical text up on the wall. You notice as it changes and the light fades out from it,
Huh.
just leaving engravings there. It wasn't brightly glowing, and it was just a very dull, faint. Don't even have to put out its own light. Until light was brought into the room, you couldn't see the pale, black, almost color just emanating out of this, almost like a pale mist more than a light.
Huh.
But you would notice it fade.
Huh. Some runes here. Arcane ones?
What is
It would
that?
be identifying magic. So since you can do that in 1 minute, you can spend a minute starting to try and head over to the east side of the room and look over those. As Tyrannus turns to Buddy, Vi, whatever happened, clearly it has gone wrong. Whatever is intended to be done, whatever wards were meant to be done here, they are ruined and corrupt. These are no longer Hellknights. These are abominations.
Well, I mean, I doubt it was very easy for them to get out of here. I mean, even if we could probably.
Tyrannus, I don't think your brothers drew these runes. Something is causing this to happen.
They're engraved into the stone as a part of the wall. And give me your Arcana check, or Nature, whatever is better that you're using to identify magic.
The Arcana.
Okay.
Believe in the Arcana.
Believe. in magic.
21.
Exactly the DC.
Sometimes love is enough.
These encryption, these engravings, these glyphs, and the latent magic within them is the necromantic ward. This up on the wall here is what had animated the undead here in the crypt. It is what Vaz had inadvertently triggered when she performed her ritual. It's what had raised the skeletons, and seeing as the energy just now faded from them, apparently the zombies as well. Now that the runes have gone dark, you know that there are no more undead in this crypt that have been animated by the ward. It is purged.
Tyrannus, we're good. The crypt has been purged. The wards have gone dark. It's done.
You trust in that, though? They were never meant to create something like this. They were never meant to spawn mindless zombies
Look
or
at me.
corrupted spirits.
Stop and look at me. We don't know what their intention was.
No, we don't. Which is why we should be sure that we have the chance.
If you want to be sure, destroy the potential for that ward to ever do anything again. Break the ward itself.
So that is going to be difficult. It is a pretty powerful magical object, and you can't really just bash it to death with weapons. Both of you would just know from your own magical understanding.
I
It's
have
not how you
dispel
destroy
magic,
things.
but it would be one hell of a check.
You can attempt to dispel it.
I have a repair kit. I
You
could
can
actually
also
try to chisel it out
you
of the wall.
can try to physically dismantle it without causing it to trigger any further harm. And the finesse required to do so is going to be a thievery check, basically because it's functionally disabling a device.
Oh, I can't use crafting. Okay.
Give me a minute. Let me.
Why
This is almost impossible, but let me at least give it a try.
Resume. Conserve your resources, please.
This...
I understand the fear here. The problem is we are journeying into what my mother would call a nest of vipers. If you're going to stop a nest of vipers, then collapse the nest. We'll fight these snakes as we go along, but we have to find a source. And rather than questioning what the source is, rather than questioning why this is all happening, find the source and stop it.
I mostly just want to make Tyrannus feel better.
We did find the source.
I'm going to say that these runes are probably appear to be the source of
What
the
is-
necromantic power.
But what is activating them? There is some...
Voz did with her meddling and her tampering.
Then channel that fury into Vaz.
Now wait here one moment, Esvis. She didn't know
She
what
is
she was getting
responsible for
into.
this desecration. Whether intentionally or not, ignorance of the consequences of one's actions is no excuse.
Well, I mean, it is an excuse because there is a huge difference between intentionally or not. If it's not intentionally, it's...
If you kill somebody, whether you meant to or not, they're still dead.
Yeah, but it's a big difference on whether you meant to or not. That's what makes the difference between one person and the next.
Well, such a thing is what courts are for, correct?
If I did not stand, if I simply abide what has happened here to the rest of all these good Hell Knights who have served in life and were left respected in death, if I simply ignore this, I have no business in the Order of the Nail.
But if your Order of the Nail is their words that got triggered. It's not like she made the words and she just accidentally triggered them.
Maybe she accidentally triggered them.
Well, I mean,
I'm
it's neither here nor there. I mean,
I'm willing to hear her out, but if she did this, then she is responsible and she must be held responsible.
I'm going to go over to the wall, take out some paper, and get some rubbings of the actual runes
Okay.
to have a copy of what they. Of
Yeah,
how they
it
were
is a
carved in.
fairly large ward. I mean, a couple feet across. Like the glyphs themselves are massive.
Okay.
So it would take a few sheets of paper to do so, but you absolutely could take a cohesive rubbing
Perfect.
of the thing as a whole, like mark the corners of each pages for order.
Dalrin, I would venture to say that maybe you as well, but we may be the only three that would even be able to discern anything generalizable from these runes. Do these seem to have any specific meaning to you in the runes themselves, to understand what they mean and how they were constructed?
Yeah, they're not a language of any sort. They are just magical glyphs, similar to like what's written on scrolls.
But
or in
magic
spellbooks.
has relationship to other things. If you do a ward, that ward has aspects of it. I want to know whether or not this organization of glyphs has some meaning to this ward, or if it may not be what we think it is.
Well, I think
Like
you just.
identifying the root spell or cause.
Well, I think you actually you identified it
you
as the
identified-
necromantic ward.
I
It
know,
is
but-
the necromantic word itself.
But I don't know what the necromantic ward is. I
It's-
only know what he told me it
right.
does.
Well, you succeeded that check, so you know that it is exactly a fire with fire thing. It is largely what he said.
Okay, so
the
I wanted to
ward
make sure of
animated a number of bodies here in the crypt. It was set to trigger if any kind of necromantic magic targeted any of the dead in the crypt.
that. Okay.
So you would be fine with false life wouldn't set this off. Healing yourselves wouldn't set this off. But as soon as any kind of necromantic magic is attempting to interfere with the rest of the dead, this activates and animates a number of them to rise and defend the crypt. Which is why Vaz's ritual to try to speak with them set it all off.
Got it. Because it was technically interfering. She was
She
disturbing
was
the
connecting
dead.
with the dead
Got
with
it.
necromancy.
Okay, sorry, I missed that I actually got
No,
that.
yeah, you
so-
succeeded. You have
Great.
identified the magic in the ward
Fabulous.
here.
Okay, now I'm very confident in what it is, so I feel very confident in my conclusions.
Yeah, and it seems as though that there is. It occurs to me at least, that there's one group of people who would know probably a bit more of the details about these wards, and particularly why they're no longer used, and that would be the signifiers back at the Order of the Nail. Perhaps you may, if you choose, take this information back with you, and perhaps find some answers for
And
yourself.
He just sits on the cleared dais where he just shoved the first of the coffins off of the top and just sits down and plants half of his halberd on the ground. And perhaps Zaev has the answers, I am sure, if such magic is even still practiced.
If they felt to, of course, if they felt like they would like to share it with you, I suppose.
I cannot. You understand, we have served each other well as allies in our travels so far, since weeks in the vaults and our exploration of Falls' shop or whatever, but I cannot let this slide. I will bring this vase to justice. Better
As-
without your help.
Well, please, don't think as though we are against going and finding her, tracking her down, and figuring out what is behind all of her machinations. If she's broken laws, then I suppose it would make sense for her to
Then
be...
take what you need of the dead interred here. These were lictors by Asmodeus. These lictors deserve to have what part they can in bringing justice against that defiler. Without their lives, they would want nothing more.
Yeah, fair enough then. Well, let's see if what the dead have to offer us in our quest.
Detect magic?
Take magic definitely activates.
I'm just
And-
going to go ahead and read our the weapons
As you
first.
go around with Read Aura, it's less a matter of what is magical and more what isn't. The Great Sword and the halberd across the zombies were magical. The halberd interred with the other lictor in the now opened crypt is magical. There are 3 more sealed crypts still that may hold even more things. In addition, the bracers on each of the zombies are also magical. So the lictors here were clearly interred with a large amount of their gear.
All right.
What do the bracers do?
Give me an Arcana check while he's looking through the rest of this, because you can identify in a minute. But
Give
it's
me
still...
a hot minute.
Oh yeah, right. I got secret check. What's your modifier?
+8.
So the bracers on the first corpse are bracers of missile deflection. And if you put those on, they're enchanted with just a mild abjurative ward that will allow you as a reaction, if you are hit but not critically hit by a ranged attack, you can activate the bracers to gain +2 AC against that attack. And if that causes the attack to miss, it misses.
Can I just say that those would look so lovely on me?
Buddy,
And-
may I talk to you a moment?
The second set of bracers is
thing.
actually different. Real quick, the second is more of a single bangle on one wrist than it is actual van braces. And this bangle glows with a orange aura transmutation. And as a single action, once per day, you can give yourself a 10-foot status bonus to speed for a minute. It also passively gives you a +1 item bonus to acrobatics. The bracelet of dashing.
In all honesty,
And
you're the
bracers of
most
missile
you're the
deflection.
most dashing person here. You're also the fastest, so making you faster gives us the most benefit.
Nice.
So, given some time down here, as the rest of the sarcophagi are being opened and they're identifying whatever's going on, what were you saying?
Just trying to move away from Tyrannus so that he can, and he can do the Esphis thing. He can brood.
Keep brooding.
Keep brooding.
I think these bracers would be good for either you or me.
You're fine to have them.
We can figure out the allocation a little later.
Yeah, I'm just throwing them onto a common thing right now.
Okay.
And we should probably, seeing as how that it wouldn't be, we'll see what else the dead have to offer us. Let's go open the other sarcophagi.
While
they're
you're doing that,
buddy, Tyrannus is mourning the desecration of these people, and Vaz is our most likely suspect. That being said, I know that you want to not have a needless loss of life.
Well, I ain't saying I just want to make sure his justice and my justice are the same things. I feel like we should bring her in and see what she's got to say for herself, but I just don't want this to be a slaughter fest.
I understand. That being said, I'm being biased here. Because if I see her, with what she's done, with what I've experienced, I will kill her. But I trust you. We've worked together long enough. And if you do not wish her dead, say to me now, and I will see to it that that does not happen.
Well, I do appreciate this. I just can't imagine that this elf that Dalran and Resme and Rur have been friends with for as long as they've been here could be that bad. She may be in mourning too. I just can't see how she would just be some evil, mindless ghoul wanting to destroy undead and bring all this stuff. If she must die, then she must die. Things happen. But I sure would appreciate Estes as a personal favor to me. Just at least just waiting to see what she says.
She, like I've said, some people are more stupid than they are evil. And while Calmont was a prime example of being stupid and egotistical, from what Rur was reading, the same seems to apply to her as well.
Yeah.
So
Ain't nothing worth killing if they're just stupid.
I will give you that. But let's support Tyrannus. And we will.
I will. I do understand he's grieving. He's a bit rash right now, so yeah, I'm just trying to keep it under wraps. I just don't want to get too hasty in any decisions over lives.
Then, as your friend, I will see to it.
I do appreciate it, Isvis. I know you always got my back. And I appreciate all those arrows going into that weird creepy monster. He's got some real sharp claws on him.
We'll keep going. And as we'll come back over to the group.
So over the next few minutes, as you open up the rest of the sarcophagi, you end up with a war flail, a morning star, and a third halberd.
You never have too many halberds.
After some identification, you've seen a couple of these now, and it's fairly easy for you to work out what is in the rest of these. All 6 of these weapons bear a lesser potency rune. So you end up with 3 +1 halberds, a +1 morning star, a +1 greatsword, and a +1 war flail, in addition to the bracers of missile deflection and the bracelet of dashing.
I will put on the bracers of missile deflection.
Okay, so very briefly, doesn't super matter yet before we hop off, gonna cover investiture.
Cool.
Any item, it matters for +1 weapons too, I suppose. They actually do have to be invested. Most magical gear that you're going to wear has to be invested. You have an innate amount of your own power, your own force of will, that you can use to manifest the magic in these items. Because like the bracers of missile deflection, you can't put them on a table and shoot arrows at them and expect them to deflect the arrows. They're running off of some amount of your life force. So any magical item generally that works, that you equip, or that works consistently, you have to what's called invest. And that only, back in the playtest, there was a huge thing about this. It was based off charisma. It was a giant debacle. A lot of people were really mad. What it means these days is you just can't have more than 10 invested items at one time. So it's a limit that we probably will not be interacting with for some time. It's just worth keeping in the back of your mind.
For the moment, I have 0, so now I have 1.
Fair enough. I think everyone's, the only person who would have 2 is whoever took the bracelet. If you took the bracelet of dashing, then you would have 2.
Yeah, I guess I could take it. That's fine, unless someone else.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
We can figure that out later.
Yeah.
But with the necromantic ward deactivated, Tyrannus' fury solidly directed now towards Vaz, and a tacit determination from him to see this through. We'll leave that for next week. And next week, when we return, I figure we're probably going to be tracking down Miss Vaz Lorraine. Or at least heading up to Guardian's Way to see if we can find any indication of what she's actually doing here, because on purpose or otherwise, she has made some people a little irritated now. And we have a very interested pile of kind of conflicted feelings between the Pharasman worshipping elf, who she is a necromancer who has animated a bunch of undead, and Tyrannus, who has seen his family defiled, and Buford, who believes that anybody can be redeemed. And you two who have been friends with Voss for months or years.
She lied to me.
I'm on both sides of the table.
Yeah, you got both of this. You're Saren Ray, who was the second, number 2 on undead hating behind Pharasma, but also want to find the good in people, want to believe that there is...
I don't think she did it on purpose, but god damn it.
Knock that off, Voss!
You stop it.
Exactly.
So,
Stop it.
thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Thank you all for being here. I don't know how to fix this freaking camera, but at least it only froze once, so...
That's pretty
It might
good. Let's be
be
honest.
because you punched
I may
the
actually
USB
have
cable.
knocked this, and that would have been what did it.
It's
possible
all
I
your
actually
fault.
physically hit it. So I'll go ahead and assume that was the problem.
He did full on like punch
I
it.
did kind of whack the USB thing here.
Next
That was
time.
probably the issue. We will see you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Bye.